Hello and welcome to Bunto Silent Dogfight, episode number 16, The Quiet Atheist. Special guest tonight is The Quiet Atheist. I'm your host, Bunto Skiffler. Delightful guest, and as per usual, we will open up the room to participants after the interview. Thanks. Let me give you a quick background on our guest. Welcome to the show, John. How you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me here.
Excellent. Okay, first, he's located in Amarillo, Texas, and born in New Mexico, aren't we all? He's a family man raising two young boys. So let's jump right to the chase. How long have you been on YouTube, John? Tell us.
For the past 2.5, 3 years at the most.
Being the Quiet Atheist all the time? Or what was your first incarnation?
Well, the first thing I did with my YouTube channel was back in 2006, but it was just a channel for collecting music.
Oh, I see. And then you decided to venture into atheism?
Yes, sir.
Well, okay, we'll get to that, but let me ask you, so you've been on since 2012, right? Cranking out show after show after show?
Yes.
Okay, well, like how many shows do you put in a month, usually?
Well, if it's video-wise, I put in probably anywhere from 20 to 20, about 20 videos a month.
Oh, I see. All right, and like you have a subscriber base of over 1,000, right? So you've got
Yes.
a fan base. All right. So did you ever think like you would get to be so big doing atheism?
Well, to be honest with you, I never really thought that I would have gotten bigger than 200 subscribers.
No,
But
really.
to tell you the truth, time has proved me wrong time and time again, as usual, and I
That's a good
stand
thing.
corrected.
Okay, so all of a sudden, you started getting adherents. I mean, did you wonder why, or you knew it made sense to you that people were listening to you?
Well, yeah, that was one of the things that I was most grateful for, because in a lot of my videos, I, express that I am truly grateful for the listeners that I do have and for potential listeners in the future. And one of the things that has always motivated me as far as my channel is concerned is the fact that, people were willing to sit there and take time out of their everyday lives to listen to what I have to say. And to me, that matters the most.
Okay, well, how would you brand your atheism?
Well, what do you mean?
Like, to me, okay, when I first encountered you, you might laugh, John. The first thing that jumped in my mind was a kind of rural atheism. It really wasn't so cosmopolitan. It was really like down to earth type, simple atheism. Like I can go see Ozymandias and sit in that
Yeah.
room and bear 60 seconds. That's about as far as philosophy. And, Richard Dawkins, Hitchens. But, when I heard you, it was like, wow, here's a very simple, plain Joe lunch bucket atheism. I found it very appealing.
Yeah, it's my brand. I have to admit that, I'm not the smartest individual in the world, but, with me, I am completely open to new information out there, that would benefit me in the long run, and it's something that I've always been motivated to do, was share a different style with everybody, and compared to what's already out there. In fact, since we're on this particular subject and since it bears on this discussion,
Please.
when I first started my YouTube channel, I was calling myself the Closet Atheist, okay? Because at that particular point, yeah,
Okay.
because at that particular point in time, I never really told anybody, because I was like basically in fear of what might happen.
All right.
But after a little while, I started to feel more motivated. I started to come out basically, and the first one that I told was my wife.
Okay.
And how the Quiet Atheist came about was the fact that I was making a couple of videos one day, and a subscriber of mine in the comment section of one of my videos said, "You know what? I really like the way that you're doing your videos. You're calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah, the delivery.
Yeah, and you really don't shout like a lot of other YouTubers do. So I'm going to give you a name, hence the Quiet Atheist." It was given to me.
Oh, I see. Oh,
Yeah.
that was nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, were you very religious, and then is that why you were closeted? I mean, you came up religious or what?
Yes, I was a Christian for, I'm wanting to say about 30 years to be exact.
30 years. Okay, what
Yes.
kind of Christian? I mean, like these
I was,
Bible.
well, see, I went to different churches, but I was predominantly Catholic.
Catholic, right?
Yes.
Saints, Mother
Yes.
Mary, what's it called? Having the communion, that type of Christian.
Yes.
Okay, were you ever fundamentalist, like a Bible beaten,
At one particular point in time, I was.
born again?
Yes. At one point in time when I was younger, I used to get together with church back
Right.
home, and we used to go to one of the grocery store parking lots and reenact the whole scene of the death of Jesus Christ.
No, okay, well, just a quick background. Okay, where was it? Where did you grow up?
Raton, New Mexico.
Raton. Okay, could you just give the geography? That's northern New Mexico.
Yeah.
Which side? The west or the east?
It's right there on the border of Colorado.
Okay, yeah, it's on the border in the center of the state, or you know what I mean, like center or the western part.
Up in the corner.
Up in the corner.
Yeah.
Okay, and the economy was so spectacular, wasn't it?
Well, I wouldn't say spectacular. You know?
Okay, I have to tell our listeners, I too grew up in New Mexico, the South, Las Cruces, and we should tell everybody that the economy in New Mexico sucks. Forever has sucked.
Well, like I don't know how it was for you in your hometown of Las Cruces, but with my hometown, we had a lot of I would say city officials that I think really hated growth economically. And we were at one point in time supposed to get a Walmart supercenter there. While it just so happens that the city officials didn't want it. You know, they didn't want anything like that within the town because basically they wanted to keep it a retirement town, I guess. And I could never fathom their way of thinking, to be honest with you, but we had a mine there that was pretty close to the town, and after that coal mine shut down and the racetrack there closed down, everything just went to shit, basically. You know,
everybody left.
Everybody.
New Mexico's like the #1 state of ghosts. I guess Arizona has ghost towns too, but we have a shitload of ghost towns in New Mexico.
Yeah, the population of my town right now, as it stands, is probably about 10,000.
Right. I mean, okay, there. Just to clue in our audience. Okay, so all of a sudden you started to have doubts about the God concept.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So, I mean, you had to express it, or you kept it inside, or what? Obviously, you expressed yourself.
Yeah. Well, see, during my 30 years as a Christian, I never knew what an atheist was, you know.
All right. You didn't know what an atheist was. Okay.
Yeah. And I encountered my first atheist during the MySpace's heyday back in the day when it was so popular.
Right.
And we started trading back and forth as far as comments are concerned, you know, and he was posting a lot of things on his personal MySpace page and stuff like that. And I kept reading them, and that got me curious naturally, you know.
Right.
And I started doing a lot of research about a lot of things, you know. And me and him would continue to do this. And I wanted to share with you one of the most, while I was a Christian, one of the most disgusting comments that I've ever said to someone. And to this day, it still resonates with me.
Oh, okay, sure.
This particular atheist that I encountered on MySpace was posting something about, you know, 9/11 and how he couldn't understand why it was in this alleged God's plan for this to happen, you know.
Okay.
And I decided to encounter with him about this particular issue, and I asked him a question. I told him, what price would you pay to get your point across? And later, as years went by, I really thought about that comment I made, and I realized that it was, to me personally, very disgusting, and I should have never said it in the first place, you know.
Okay.
And it's something, like I said, continues to resonate with me to this day. It's something that I regret saying.
Okay, when you're a Christian, you say a lot of nonsensical things.
Yeah.
When you finally get out of the mindset to look at it.
Yeah. Because once I got out of that whole type of thinking, I was basically looking from the outside, and I couldn't help but see how ridiculous this mindset was as a Christian, as for, when they would engage people on social issues, whether it
Right.
was locally in my hometown or on the news, whatnot, it started to become more of a nuisance to me. I mean, this type of thinking that these individuals have, and I continued to do a lot of research. I continued to really read a lot of stuff, even parts of the Bible, because, a lot of atheists that I had encountered would post, Bible verses, whatnot.
Right.
And I went and got the Bible and I started looking these up. And guess what? I found them in there.
Right. They weren't lying. Okay, John, just to dovetail it back to the YouTube experience. Okay, so you started talking, expressing your doubts about the God concept, right?
Yes.
And then you started building up a fan base, a following. People liked what you were, arriving at, the conclusions.
Yes.
Okay, so then all of a sudden this thing called G Plus pops in. I mean, what do you think? Why did you come over here?
Well, as far as G Plus is concerned, when YouTube first made it known that they were going to integrate Google Plus with YouTube channel,
comments.
The comments, basically if you integrated them, it basically allowed you to comment on other people's videos. And at that point in time, that was the only reason why I merged the two together, so I can be allowed to post comments. I never really used Google Plus up until recently.
Right.
And it's something that I've been, learning so that I can communicate with other individuals. And it's definitely a learning experience,
So what do you think? Okay, we got to welcome you. Welcome to the Great Debate community. The top of the pyramid here is a person called G-Man. Ever heard of him?
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay, so you're probably into the G Plus, and you're starting to do Hangouts. What do you think? Are you impressed or not impressed or what?
With Google Plus or G-Man?
Well, how about we'll start with G Plus. What do you think of G Plus, the Hangout?
I think the Hangout thing is a plus. I think that it offers an excellent opportunity for individuals to get into this group type situation and engage with each other. I think that is definitely a plus. And also I think that it offers people an opportunity to share ideas with one another, despite the fact that they may disagree with each other.
Okay.
I think that is a plus, but for some people, I think it's a hard task for them to actually sit down and have a rational conversation.
All right, you discovered that. Okay, so is it exciting, the Great Debate community, or are you just another mountain to tackle in your whole plan for the Quiet Atheist?
Well, I think it is very exciting to engage with individuals that come up with different conclusions than you do.
Right.
I think, like I said, I'm always one for talking with people. I really enjoy the conversations that I have, and I definitely look forward to every chance that I get as far as talking with others is concerned.
Okay, you want to start flipping Christians, or you want to start burning down churches here, or what? I mean, are you going to be an atheist, a militant atheist, what?
I'm not going to go to that extreme.
Right.
But, I'm a agnostic atheist.
Agnostic atheist. Okay,
yes.
So you're going to walk halfway into the madness of the theist, or are you going to tell me how you're going to handle that?
Well, basically, as far as my agnostic atheism is concerned, I basically, don't know if there's a God out there. I don't know if there's aliens out there. I don't know any of these things. I think that the knowledge to know these things is completely impossible. It's knowledge that we as the human species cannot fathom.
All right.
So because of the fact that I, don't know the information that is needed to know whether or not there is a God that exists, and because of the fact that there is no evidence for an existence of a God, I lack the belief, which is atheism, and that's why I'm an agnostic atheist.
I see. All right, John. Well, let's go ahead and leave that there and jump into our first subject. Growing up in New Mexico. Okay. The state is 75% owned by the government. One of the poorest states in the union, but also probably one of the most beautiful states in the union. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I mean the
land of
scenery.
enchantment.
Huh?
The land of enchantment.
Yes. Before we get into the discussion, there's this old saying from New Mexico. You come there on vacation and leave on probation.
Right. Okay.
But as far as the scenery is concerned, especially where I live, where I used to live in my hometown, the mountainous terrain is very beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of mountains. We've got a state park over there. We've got a lake in the state park. I mean, the scenery is just awesome to look at. I mean, the whole town where I'm from is surrounded by mountains.
Right. Okay. What's the mindset of growing up in such a rural place? Okay, go ahead, John.
No, go ahead. Finish what you were going to say.
I was going to say, well, just in my mind, we have this word called cliques.
Yeah.
That if the Anglos know, it's almost like gang in a way. It's sort of like groups that hang together. And that's something that you come up with in New Mexico. And, I would say here in our great debate community, sometimes you can see cliques that people have.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, what are some of your experiences of growing up with the clique mindset?
Well,
being down with the gang.
Yeah. When I was younger, I always wanted to feel that I belonged with a group of individuals, or I always wanted to feel like I was wanted, if you will. I didn't grow up with the easiest of childhoods. I'll tell you that right now. My family and I were very poor. We didn't have a lot of money.
Sure.
So a bunch of us kids in the neighborhood started to hang around together when we were like 5 years old, Right. And we started running up and down the streets, we started, playing chicken with 10 speeds,
Right.
We'd hold our little gambling events when I was a kid. We'd get our dogs, and we'd go to the backyard of somebody's house, and we make them fight each other, and we start betting money and stuff like that,
Yeah.
It was a crazy childhood, man. But, I wouldn't trade it for the world, to be honest with you. It's something.
That's right.
It was definitely a learning experience. And I grew up with a lot of individuals, that had my back when we were kids,
Right.
And we always hung around together. We went to football games together. And a lot of the kids that I grew up with when I was a child are a part of the police force now in my hometown.
Right.
And whenever I think about those things, whenever I think about when I was a kid in general, it's something to be proud of, because we really bonded, all of us kids in the neighborhood.
Okay.
We fought each other. We snuck cigarettes out of our mom's purses. We
right, liquor, whatever, dope. Okay, yeah. Well, let me bounce this off you. Okay, so when you get into high school, they always say like you join a gang, and that's like totally false in my mindset. It's almost like the gang indoctrinates you. The gang goes out and gets you. That was my high school experience.
Yeah. Well, see, okay. when I was in high school, and this was a very big problem for me, and I think it started when I was in the 6th grade, in middle school.
Well, okay, let me interrupt you real quick, John. Okay, maybe there's some, I hate to say this, but Anglos who didn't have the experience of their high school being infested with gangs.
Yeah.
You see what I mean, John? I mean, I think I've run into a lot of people like that. Oh, you didn't have like gangs every which way in high school, but that's what happened to me in Cruces. I was a part of this group, and we call ourselves the Las Cruces Hardcore, LCHC. There's all these little cliques. Anyway, so go on, John. I just wanted to give that quick.
Yeah, well, like I was saying, when I first got into middle school and throughout my high school years, I was a loner, basically.
Oh, okay.
I really didn't, all my friends as we grew up, a lot of them started to part ways, if you will. A lot of them started to move out of town or do their own thing, basically. But in high school, I was basically a loner, and in junior high, I really kept to myself. I didn't have a lot of friends simply because, back in that particular moment of my life, you only had friends if you had some type of status. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like money or a fancy car to take to high school and stuff like that. And I rode the school bus when I was a senior in high school. I drove,
Right.
you know what I mean? And, you know, I was picked on a lot. I was bullied a lot. And, it's something that was really rough for me, but I managed to get through it.
Right. You get through it.
Yeah. And
And
I managed to graduate from high school back
right.
in 1997.
Wow. Okay. And then also you learn a lot of rules that, some people have never encountered in their experience. Like, I've noticed sometimes when people will take pains to insult somebody to their face. And I remember in high school, if you could do that, you could go ahead and get away with that. But don't be surprised if, like, after school, you get jumped like 5 people. You
Oh
know what
yeah.
I mean? Because, they won't say anything. You can go ahead and, run your mouth, but just wait till you're by yourself.
Oh yeah. Well, what we used to do, especially it started in middle school, we used to have this like designated area where if you had a problem with another kid in school, we'd wait. We wouldn't even throw any punches or anything in school, but
Right. You didn't do anything during school. We
yeah.
wait till afterwards, man.
And then everybody would just march from the school across the street and go down to the train tracks where there was this big patch of grass, and they just take off their shirts and throw down right there.
Right. Well, it's just so amazing. Like, these people that are they're so fearless. And then I just know in my head, they never had that experience of high school of, like, afterwards, the aftermath of you shooting your mouth off or something.
Yeah.
So you tend to learn, politeness. You don't cause people to lose face in certain situations. That's one thing I took away from high school.
Yeah. And it's something, a lot of things that I learned when I was in high school and hanging around with a lot of people is one of the things that they hated the most, other kids, was the fact, they hated snitches. They hated people who went behind other people's backs and talked about them. And, something along those lines, that was one of their big pet peeves back then.
Oh, and girls, I remember that was a big one for fights.
Yeah. I remember a lot of girl fights I watched. I tell you what, women could get pretty vicious, I tell you.
Well, I was just thinking more of like, if they thought you were trying to pick up somebody else's girl, then that was always a fight.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was an automatic fight right there.
Just being friendly to somebody's girlfriend could be a fight.
Yep.
Now, just to keep jumping. Okay, I went to college. We had a university in Las Cruces, New Mexico State, right? So I just went to the university down the street. But also we had a program where we had a lot of Indians from north, because the north part of the state, they have a lot of reservations, right?
Yeah.
So we'd have the Indians come down to the university, but they'd only last a semester, John, because they didn't know how to read. That was the first time that I encountered adult illiteracy, people that are full adults who did not know how to read.
Yeah. I can't say that I experienced that because, well, when I was, to be honest with you, since we're talking about education, when I was in the 3rd grade, okay, I noticed one thing, that all of the work that the teachers were teaching me was way too easy.
Okay.
And I'll explain why here in a minute. And the teachers were amazed, basically, because they had determined that I was reading at a high school level in 3rd grade.
Right.
And and they wanted to take an opportunity to measure my IQ, if you will, just,
right.
Out of curiosity, if you will. And they measured it when I was in the 3rd grade, and it measured to be 140.
Wow.
Yeah. And they wanted me to skip 3 grades.
Oh my.
And I would have probably been able to graduate at the age of 15. But to be honest with you, my mom wasn't having any of it. She didn't feel that I was mature enough to be with older kids.
Okay.
And that's why I ended up, graduating at my regular time instead of, at the age of 15.
Yeah,
But
early.
as far as illiteracy is concerned, there were some people that had a few problems here and there. But as far as, people not knowing how to read, I don't think I can say that I have encountered people in high school like that. I mean, everybody that I knew and hung out with knew how to read. They knew how to do their basic math problems and stuff like that. So I really couldn't comment on that part.
Now, I remember when I, was counseled in high school, they really, really, really wanted me to join the military. I mean, it was like pretty much an Army recruitment center at my high school. I graduated in '83. Okay, so I'm a little bit, maybe they got rid of that by your time. So there was an emphasis to get the person into the military when I went to high school. Okay, well, let me see. All right, I'm a Native American. So did you have a lot of interaction with the Indios up there, or was it just Latins?
Well, both, because I have Indian in me as well on both sides of the family. I'm a Cherokee.
Cool.
And yes, I had a lot of interactions with Native Americans from all over the state. When I was younger, my mom and I and my father sometimes used to go to the reservations, and my parents used to pick up the cigarettes there because they were so cheap compared to where they were originally selling them out in the open. You know what I mean? And I used to have conversations with older people, and I really used to enjoy it. So yeah, I was exposed to my Native American side quite often when I was younger.
And also in the North New Mexico, we have all the prisons, because they were always threatening to send me to Springer or whatever.
Yeah, that it was a matter of fact. Speaking of Springer, the Springer Boys School, as they called it, was only about 32 miles away from my hometown, and it was basically a prison for juveniles.
Right. And
I was threatened a couple of times, during my childhood years, because let's face it,
right.
I was a hellraiser, man.
Well, I mean, I remember that was a thing that they would go to, that they were going to send us to Springer. Yeah, I mean, even to this day, I have some friends, I would say acquaintances. Let me characterize as that are in the prison system over there. It's unfortunate, but I mean, that's the way when you grow up with those people, right, John? People that eventually end up in prison.
Yep. And what hurt me the most is a lot of my friends that I grew up with. Well, I can't say a lot because that would be exaggerating, but a few of my friends that I grew up with have died since then. Some have, I have lost to suicide, and others I have lost to the prison system back home and stuff like that, because when we grew up, I sort of lost contact with everybody because, like I said earlier, we went our separate, I started to dabble in law enforcement a lot more, and stuff like that. And they just went their separate ways, and we technically lost contact for a lot of years.
Oh yeah, I still have friends up in. One of my friends is in Farmington. Gosh, and I see him. I see his picture once in a while, but I've never reached out to restart the friendship that we had. But we were really close in high school. Just a quick thing that came across my mind, John. We had that. Remember that homeless man that was executed in Albuquerque?
Yes.
It's like,
yeah, I read the articles and I saw the video. Yes.
It's like New Mexico now is really law enforcement happy. Yeah. I mean, that state's like in lockdown. When I went out there about maybe over 10 years ago, I was just taken aback at how many police presence were in Cruces. It seems like, there was a cop car every block.
That's basically the way my hometown was too, and it probably still is that way.
Right.
And
it's law enforcement overdrive.
Yeah, basically, because for some reason they are so scared about what's going to possibly happen in these towns that they literally have to double their force, and it's ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah, I just figure that's their economy right now. Okay, let's go ahead and leave New Mexico there, John. Maybe we'll come back to it, but let's just talk about your atheism, okay? What's the message behind your atheism? What are the core values?
Well, the core values for me is childhood indoctrination. That is the primary motivation behind what I do, you know, simply because to make a long story short, when I was about 8 years old, I was going to church with my uncles at that particular time. And we went to his church, and I was sitting there listening to the pastor talking about the end times. You know, he started to bring up the book of Revelations,
rapture and all that.
Yeah, and he started to talk about how in the end times that all of the governments of the world are going to unite, basically, and there's going to be one spot open on the throne for Satan, aka Lucifer, whatever you want to call him,
the beast.
Yeah, and he's basically going to be released upon Earth to rule over Earth for a period of 7 years, apparently.
Yep.
And he's going to be the new leader of this newly combined government. Well, it just so happens, you know, the pastor tells everybody, well, during his reign on Earth, he's basically going to make everybody wear the brand, which is 666.
Right, mark of the beast.
Yeah, wherever it could be on their hand or on their forehead. And basically you get this to, you know, carry on with your everyday lives, whatever the case might be. But if a person were to basically refuse to get the mark, they would be brought up on charges and go to trial, where they would be ultimately found guilty and be put to death, basically by beheaded. Yeah. And I was 8 years old when this was told to me. You know, so I went through my whole life walking on freaking eggshells, man, you know, wondering what the hell was this really screwed with my head. So naturally, when I got into my atheism, you know, I sat here and I thought about it for a while, and I realized, hey, children have no business learning this propaganda.
Right, propaganda.
Because it's going to put fear in their minds. They're not going to obviously understand this on the same level as grown adults are, you know.
The ability to dismiss it as unreality is not there for the child.
Yes. Yeah. And that's my primary fuel for what I do.
Okay.
It might not be what I talk about on my channels directly all of the time, but it is the core system that I have. It's what fuels me to do what I do.
Right. Anti-indoctrination. Okay, John, when you encounter a Christian who's talking to you about this stuff, right, you can sense that they are deluded, right? You know what I mean? It's like, let's say they're pounding the tribulation and stuff like that. And it's sort of like you feel for them because they need to get out of that.
Yes.
That, you know, how would you say it? Mind control or childish fear? Or, I mean, how do you characterize it?
I call it mental slavery.
Mental slavery. That's a good one.
And usually when I engage Christians here on YouTube, I'm very calm, like I say, you know, but once I get the slightest hint that they're mocking me or you know, basically, you know, trying to talk to me in a way that they hope that I won't understand, I get really agitated and I start getting a little hostile with them. You know.
Okay. Well, let me give you an example. Okay, you're talking with a Christian and they just cannot believe you don't fear God anymore, that you don't fear hell. And they're telling you, John, you've got to be born again because you're going to burn in hell. I mean, how do you reach out to that person? I mean, is there a way that you found to approach?
Well, judging from my recent interactions and reactions before that, I realized that some of my discussions that I've had with Christians are futile, basically. They're going to think like that regardless.
Okay.
And they continue to, you know, to this day, threaten me with hell, threaten me with all of this nonsense. And I just sit there and laugh it off, you know. And it's something that I don't have to have chain me down anymore.
Okay, but what about them? Do you think they're reaching out, like if they're constantly commenting and bugging you, the atheists, doesn't it ever cross your mind that maybe they want to make the jump to atheism?
It's probably possible. They're probably poking at me, you know, seeing what I can do to bring them into the fold, if you will.
You know, finally help them break the chain.
Yeah.
You know?
and it's something, you know. But there's a few Christians here on YouTube that, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really think that they're real Christians. You know, I think
Okay, interesting.
yeah, I think that they're a bunch of pose. I think that they make videos and do what they do just so that they can
Subs, hits, views.
subs, hits, that they could get a rise out of people, you know.
Right, Lowell's cow.
Yeah. So I really don't think that they genuinely believe in what they talk about, you know.
All right, John, if you had to flip a Christian, what's your best weapon? The Bible?
Yes.
You just tell them, let's look at some Bible things together.
Yeah. Instead of, you know, using violence, I prefer to fight with ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, they say that, a lot of them say, especially here on YouTube, that, you know, the Bible is the ultimate good book, and it was directly inspired by this alleged God, if you will, that's omniversal and all of this other nonsense, you know.
Right.
And I go, why do you think if this creator of yours wrote a book, why would there be so many, or inspired to write people to write a book, why would there be so many contradictions?
Right.
Why would there be so many inaccuracies in it? And why would it promote slavery? Why would it promote genocide? Right. And all of these other things? Well, you're just taking it out of context.
That's right. That's the first thing. It's like you're not understanding what they're saying, right?
Yeah. And
okay.
It's something that just makes me laugh all the time, man.
Okay, well, John, have you ever just had a Christian just want to go after you, like just hostile, attack you? Comment-wise, maybe response videos?
Not response videos. The only one that's ever went at me a little aggressive is that one particular Christian that I talked about earlier. One God Only One was his handle, basically.
Right.
And he'd dart into the comment section of a few of my videos from time to time and really get after me about things, you know.
Comment war.
Yeah, basically. Keyboard warrior is what I like to call it.
Okay.
And he would dart in and out all the time, you know, and all of a sudden he just stopped, you know. And I could care less. But,
right. Maybe something happened, you know, maybe he flipped or maybe died or what. That's what you think.
But as far as, you know, Christians are concerned, I've never really had one really aggressive come at me, you know.
Right.
It's been a little bit of a childish banter, if you will. They come at me, you know, they poke fun at me, or they'll make fun of me about certain things. But you know, I just blow it off.
Well, John, we have theists here that will go after you in the great debate community. They'll take one of your videos and say that you are satanically possessed. I mean, how would you handle that?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't advise taking one of my videos because that, you know, not that I'm going to do anything about it. Personally, I could care less. But, you know, the company that I'm partnered with, they don't really like that too well.
Okay.
You know?
I didn't know you were partnered with a company. What's that about?
A while back, I started seeing a lot of these partnership programs.
All right.
And it was a bit of a turn on for me. I wanted to see if I could get into this, basically, I said to myself. And a company by the name of Fullscreen notified me, messaged me.
All right.
And asked me, you know, would you like to come aboard? You know, we think you have huge potential in your channel. And
excellent.
we'd like you to be a part of our organization. And I was like, okay. And I've been with them for a little over 2 years now.
All right. Monetization.
Yeah, that's basically, monetization. Yeah. Because before I used to have, I used to do that Google AdSense thing.
Right.
And then now my MCM is full screen.
Full screen. Okay. Well, just, you know, since, you know, you are the quiet atheist, and we have people that want to, you know, they paint this really, what'd you say, caricature of atheists. I mean, what caricatures of atheists have you heard? Like G-Man, you know, how G-Man runs down atheists. It's all about atheist hate. I don't really consider G-Man as like a fervent Christian as much as he's an atheist hater. I mean, does that ever rattle you, get on your nerves, the type of atheist hate?
Well, it does. Well, you know, part of what, like, say for G-Man, for example, one of the things that gets on my nerves about him is the fact that he seems to not have a problem spreading lies.
Right.
He
You don't
seems
mind.
not. He seems not to have a problem, to actually twist what other individuals have to say and create these straw men that he can knock down himself, so he can make himself allegedly look better.
Sure.
And it's just a big joke, basically. And he thinks that he's got one up on everybody. And one of the things that pisses me off about that particular individual is the fact that so many people out there are giving him so much airtime when he doesn't
Right.
deserve it.
He's the top of the pyramid here.
You got like the Drunken Peasants podcast, where he's on there a lot lately. And these, are individuals that I would like to talk to someday. And it's not a thing about jealousy. It's just something that I'd like to have as far as a discussion is concerned, Sure. But he just goes on there to blow smoke up their asses, basically. I see no value in any kind of a discussion that he involves himself with, especially when it's coming from him. So when I see him, dishonestly approach a discussion, it really pisses me off. And there are many Christians here on YouTube that do that. And it's something that really makes me angry. I call them out from time to time, and I know that they don't pay attention to my channel. Personally, I could care less, but,
do they like
worth
the
a
videos?
shot.
Does the fan base like those videos where you take G-Man to task?
Well, yeah, basically, whether it's, there's been, I think, I'm wanting to say about 2 or 3 videos I've made to G-Man in the past. And recently I made one to True Empiricism.
Okay.
And, and I understand what my subscribers are trying to tell me, when they say that it's basically a waste of time and stuff like that.
Okay, they say that.
Yeah, and it's something, that really pisses me off, though, and I want to engage these guys, and I want to expose them for the true idiots that they are.
Interesting. Okay, John, have you had any interaction with G-Man personally yet? Yes.
I think we, in the past, traded a sentence. That was it.
That's about it, right?
Yeah. But that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to be afforded that opportunity to go toe-to-toe with G-Man?
Oh, yeah, man. I'm chomping at the bit to do that. Him.
Yeah, who else besides G-Man? What are some of your notable theists that you'd like to go toe-to-toe with?
Thick Shades.
Thick Shades. Thicky, all right.
Yeah. Or
a nice guy and approachable, I guess.
Or as people like to call him, thick shits.
Yeah.
True Empiricism.
True Empiricism.
Yeah, G-Man. There's at one point in time where I wanted to go after Arcane.
Oh, Arcane. Yeah. Boy, that's a load of laughs right there.
Because he's basically a puppet, and the Bible or Side 10 Bruggencade has his hand up his ass, basically.
I love it. Okay. There's a guy that me and you both know. I don't know if you had an interaction. I've had a somewhat, I don't know, maybe a paragraph worth of interaction. His name is Tim, otherwise known as the Bible Thumping Wingnut. What say you? Any interaction?
We've had a lot of interactions in the past. We've even had about a 2.5 hour hangout with each other where we talk back and forth about religion, and he decided to bring up his presuppositionalist argument and stuff like that. And
so what do you think of Tim on the general? You can talk to him.
Yeah, you can.
Get fanatical. His buddy Matthew, whatever his name, Matthew 416 or whatever that guy's name is.
Matthew 419. Yeah.
419, right?
But the thing about Bible Thumping Wingnut, though, is on the surface, when you're face to face with him in a hangout, for instance, he'll be polite as he can. He'll talk with you. He'll seem like he's very understanding, whatnot, whatever. But once the show goes off and you're not there anymore, all of a sudden you become this topic, in his little circles, if you will, with Matthew 419 and all of those other people, where they would make fun of you or, all of this nonsense, and I've heard this from numerous people, that basically, tell them, caught wind of them talking about me and whatnot. That's basically it. Yeah. So on the surface, he seems okay, but once everything's over with, he'll like flip a switch basically, and it's
Okay,
done.
have you seen the nut around G Plus? I haven't.
The what?
I call him the nut. Have you seen the wing nut around here? I really haven't seen him. I've only
No,
really seen him on YouTube.
no. Lately, he hasn't been making any videos. Now, I think once a week he uploads a video to his channel. It's a podcast that he has with Matt Slick and Matthew 419,
Yeah.
and they're always on there every Sunday, I believe it is. I'm not sure, but they have him on there. I guess Matt Slick is his new hero now. It used to be that
So what is that character?
That Tony Miano guy.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you think of Slick?
I think he's a fruit basket, man.
Right. Is there anything impressive there at all?
I'm going to tell you something. I'll tell you what I think is the only thing that is impressive coming from that man. He's the ultimate riddler. I mean, he talks in riddles. He really tries, to twist what you say, tries to get you into these positions, and then he'd say, "I got you," basically. And the whole situation seems very laughable to me. And I mean, the last debate that I seen him in was when he had that second debate with Matt Dillahunty on the Bible Thumping Weenuts channel. And almost every 3 or 4 minutes, he tried to get Matt Dillahunty to trip up or say something that he didn't actually say.
Right.
And that's just annoying as fuck, man.
Okay, well, let's talk about the atheists. Which atheists do you enjoy? Dillahunty? Who else?
Well, we'll start Matt Dillahunty. I really enjoy his work. I like On Run Raw.
Yeah.
Texans. I like. Yeah, On Run Raw only lives about 8 hours from me.
Right. He's okay. Dillahunty. He's here's with me in Austin, and then Aaron Raw. He's Mr. President of the Texas Atheists.
There's only one particular situation that I disagree with when it comes to On Run Raw, but we won't get into that because it doesn't pertain to this hangout. So,
okay, so we got a pretty sizable force of atheists here in Texas.
Yes,
including you, John. I'm counting that. All right. So, I mean, just here in the great debate community, does anybody impress you as far as their atheism?
Yes, there's a few, matter of fact, and I wanted to bring them up now since we're on the subject. One of the individuals that impressed me a lot, but I don't see him a lot really because he's so busy making his soap opera. It's theoretical bullshit.
Right.
The next one that I really, really like is Meridian Frost. Another one that,
Okay, that's what I'm gonna have to, catch up on. Is it a woman or a man or?
It's a man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a man. Another one that I really like. I think that his videos are really thought provoking, and they inspired me to a lot of situations. Is Dark Matter 2525.
Right. I love his cartoons. They're very
and Dusty Smith, obviously.
Dusty.
Yeah. The Amazing Atheist for certain reasons, and the reason why I say some of these guys like the Amazing Atheist and Dusty is because of the fact that they are, loud, confident,
assertive of their position.
Yes, assertive, and though they have some elements, that I wish I could work into my own repertoire, if you will.
Yeah, you like to try it, vamp on them.
And there's a lot of other individuals that I really like, and there's a lot of other individuals who I used to like that I don't anymore. But
okay, when you start circulating here in the great debate community on Hangouts, I'm sure you're gonna trip over, some atheists, toe to toe that think like you.
Yeah.
Just once you start immersing yourself in the Hangout scene.
And there's a lot of good people that I really enjoy having conversations with. One of the things in one of my recent hangouts that I really enjoyed was I got the opportunity to talk to another individual that I really admire for the work she has done on her channel, and she goes by the name of Wise Apple.
Oh, yes.
I've, me and Redline are good friends.
Good.
Um,
Well, let me ask you this, John. Is there anybody who just fears you?
no,
mean,
I wouldn't say it. No, I wouldn't go that far. Nobody fears me. I mean, I don't see why they would. But I think I don't know. I wouldn't say that, some of these Christians here on YouTube fear me. I think that they are just a little.
You decide to pay Rancam's Ranism community a visit. They're gonna like talk to you, or they're just running flee from you.
Well, to be honest with you, the last time I talked to Ran, it was during one of those podcasts that the Sinners and Saints was having.
Sure.
And me and him were basically trading comments back and forth in the comment section. And I asked him, you think you're so smart? Or I can't remember precisely what I said, but I go, why don't you come into a hangout with me?
Yeah,
let's go toe to toe. Let's have a conversation. I'm gonna Ran slap you well.
Yeah. Typical Ran.
And just be on the lookout for a video tomorrow. It's been about a week now, and there has been no video.
Okay, Rancam prides himself on slapping people around, Ran slapping, and being a bully Christian. I think you'd be a pretty good match for him, at least physically.
I'm going to tell you now. I used to work in a maximum security prison as well.
Okay,
and one of
that
the
would
things,
be a great matchup. Go ahead, John.
One of the things that really gets on my nerves when he starts talking about corrections or talking about the prisons that he was in. One of the things that gets on my nerves about that man is he thinks he's so fucking badass, dude.
Right.
And
he has a name, Aces.
Yeah, Aces. And I tell you what, when I was working in maximum security here in the state of Texas, we have some of the most dangerous individuals in the state of Texas I have ever come across. Whether they are working for the cartels in Mexico or whether they're serial killers, or child killers, whatever the case might be. We have a plethora of individuals in the prison system, and some of the things that they have done were pretty horrendous. But when I walk into a pod and I'm surrounded by 150 killers, guess what they call me? They call me Big G.
Big G, okay.
Yeah, for my last name, Gonzalez.
Right.
And they talk to me. They really respect me and stuff like that because I had a serial killer. Well, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the individual, but there was a serial killer in Dallas. I can't remember the precise years, but he was known as the eyeball killer.
Oh, my God. All right.
And I had him calling me sir at the end of the day.
Right. The eyeball killer. Holy shit.
So when I see Rand talk about all this shit when he was in prison, I tell him, man, if you met me and if I was a guard at your prison, oh man, you wouldn't like me at all.
You wouldn't like me at all, Rand. Start paying some respect. Oh yeah, that we have to make that happen. Rand Cam and the Quiet Atheist hangout. Okay, well let's go ahead and segue that to our final subject, law enforcement, John. Okay, how many years were you in law enforcement, please?
Well, I first started in the county lockup situations. I used to work for a detention center back in my hometown. I then went to another town called Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Yeah, holy shit.
I worked at the San Miguel County Detention Center there. I was working for the sheriff's department.
Right. And
we'd house at any given time. I think the facility was kind of small. It's kind of small. We'd house maybe, I don't know, I wanted to say 200-300 inmates at a time. That was it, basically.
Sure.
And I worked that for a lot of years, and then after that, I kind of got into a situation, unfortunately, which I probably won't go into in this hangout because it's a little too personal.
Fine.
But I eventually came to Texas, where I worked for the TDCJ,
sure.
Tech, and I worked in the maximum security penitentiary we have here in Amarillo, Texas. And it was definitely something that I was born to do. That's all I've known was law enforcement and serving my community for the past 15 years,
Correctionals, right.
And it was something that I enjoyed. I really did.
Okay, John, our country is like going through a crisis right now with law enforcement abuses. Okay, why is that, John? Just off the top of your head.
Well, I think that there's a numerous amount of problems, and one of the things that I have noticed lately, especially with this epidemic, if you will, of
Shootings.
shootings and stuff like that, is the fact that I think that there's a lot of racist individuals wearing a badge.
Okay.
I think that a lot of these people are poorly trained, you know.
Poor
I
training.
think, yeah, and I think that, you know, when they decide to put that uniform on for the day and they start patrolling the streets of their respective towns, I think that a lot of these people want to see what they want to get away with, you know, and unfortunately, a large percentage of these individuals do get away with a lot of things.
Right. They want to throw their weight around,
Yeah.
bully people.
And I noticed that they have a terrible track record with people who are in neighborhoods that are, I would say, less fortunate than other neighborhoods as far as financial status is concerned.
Advantage, youth, so forth.
And to me personally, I always thought that there was this two-tier justice system, if you will. And the reason why I say that is you get a lot of these, well, today's youth, you know, they're in neighborhoods that are not really doing that good, you know, financially. And the law, you know, seems to hit them hard with a force, you know. But you get these other high-class individuals, you know.
The rich.
They're rich. They are able to escape.
Play the system.
Yeah. They're able to escape the clutches of the law. But I think, you know, again, that this is a very serious problem as far as law enforcement is concerned, you know, like, you know, whether you say Trayvon Martin's situation or these other individuals, you know, who unfortunately met their demise at the hands of a cop, you know, like the recent one, Freddie Gray.
Freddie Gray. Okay, well, let me ask you this. John, is it poor training to always shoot to kill? I mean, that seems to be, they don't shoot to wound, they always shoot to kill.
Well, with me, personally, deadly force to me was something that I could not entertain.
All right.
I always use that. I would always use that as a last resort, the last option. If there was no other option on the table, well, yes, I would use it. But typically, when I encounter a hostile subject, you know, I would always try and talk them down first. You know, I had a system for myself. It was
de-escalate.
It was always called talk down before takedown.
Talk down before takedown.
You know. And I'd always try to get with them and talk with them. But if that didn't work, there's always a situation where you have to try and make them know that you're at a higher level than they are. So if they go up higher than you, you got to meet them there. And it's a continuous process, you know.
Right.
And the most that I've ever done with an individual was take them down physically, basically, you know.
All right.
I don't believe in that lethal force shit unless they're actually shooting at you, you know.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, because, you know, we had that case, like this old man practically bought himself onto the police force.
Yeah.
And then he shot down this guy and he said, I didn't know it wasn't my taser, you know. That's, I thought was like the most egregious thing ever. And, you know, to put the cherry on top, they gave him a vacation right afterwards to the Bahamas.
Yes, he went to the Bahamas.
I mean, well, seeing what's happening in Baltimore sort of makes sense. You know, you have to shamefully admit that the needle hits zero and people are getting tired of these abuses by law enforcement.
Well, see, I think one of the main problems is the fact that these city officials, if you will, are ignoring a lot of these neighborhoods. They're not really paying attention to them. I think you know, they don't take these neighborhoods seriously
you know,
at
80%
all.
unemployment.
Yes.
And they're not doing anything.
So when I look at a situation like Baltimore, for example, I think that what happened to Freddie Gray was very unfortunate. You know, he didn't deserve to die. But when I decided to do a little bit of research about Baltimore as far as, you know, police brutality is concerned. And the conclusions that I came up with were very alarming. And the reason why I say that is for the past 10 years, the Baltimore Police Department was responsible for 110 deaths.
110 deaths, like a death squad.
Yeah. And 70% of those individuals that were killed by the cops were black.
Right. So
and I was like, damn, we got some racist people over here, you know, because you got other reports like in New York, for example, you have police officers, you know, what do you call it, a racial profiling, where they
yes,
roll up on a black guy walking down the sidewalk at Times Square
shake
or
him
wherever the
down.
case, shake him down. They throw him up against the wall and start patting him down and doing all of that nonsense. It exists. Racism still exists today, and that's one of the things that I have
You know,
always had a problem with.
now with our little mini cams, we can see.
Oh,
There's
yes.
visible proof of the egregious acts that go against
Mhm.
minorities. Well, let me ask you. Okay, John, we can see all the symptoms. We know what's going wrong. How can we fix it? Any ideas?
I think one of the things,
Laws or sending people to jail? What?
one of the main things that has always concerned me is the accountability issue.
Okay.
I think that, you know, a lot of these things, you know, a lot of these officers that choose to involve themselves with this type of monstrosity, I think, you know, they need to be held accountable. They need to be
Okay,
serving
we
as,
can't train a cop not to kill, right?
yeah. It's
Possible.
eventually, you know, I'm not saying, you know, that killing is not the answer. There's going to be certain situations where you have to use deadly force, you know, and I'm not trying to say that at all. But what I'm trying to say is when a person uses that type of force carelessly, I think they need to be an example for the rest of society. They need
Right.
to,
There has to be accountability. You just can't
yes,
say, "Oh, this wasn't
yeah.
my taser," right?
People have to, other cops have to know that this cannot be permitted in society. This cannot be the type of thing that is allowed to go on any further, you know?
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Okay, I noticed today that they went ahead and want to indict these 6 cops for Freddie Gray. Obviously, it looks to me, it smells like police abuse, right? The way the young man died.
Yeah.
And the first thing I heard is that the union called for the district attorney to resign. So now we're going to have, the old police union. How can I say this? It's like here in Austin, we've had our case where the cop kills the youth, right? But the police union always stands up and gets the cop back on the job. The cop will say some rape joke on the air. He thinks it's funny to all his brethren cops. He loses his job. Chief fires the guy, but then the police union gets the guy back on the job. I mean, are we going to see a showdown between police union and the way that the citizenry want to have their law enforced?
Yeah. I think that there's going to be a butting of heads with this particular situation in Baltimore. I think that it's going to get a little more uglier as far as this legal battle is concerned, because I've been following this story. One of the things that I have noticed is that all of these cops, all of these people in law enforcement are really seeming to try and cover their tracks on this issue.
Yes.
They're trying to how do you call it? They're trying to protect their own.
That's right. The thin blue line.
Yeah. And recently, I think it was today, I saw a video about it. Apparently, a leaked report was leaked out into the public, if you will, about a fellow inmate or prisoner, if you will, that was in the same van as Freddie Gray.
Right.
Basically making this story up that, Freddie Gray was, basically trying to injure himself in the van by
It's the worst case of suicide ever. The 10 bullet holes in his back.
Because
right?
I was like, how the fuck can an individual break their own spine, crush their own larynx? How can they do that? Why would he want to do that? Because it seemed to me that when I first saw the video, when he was first apprehended, it seemed to me that he was paralyzed from the waist down. He couldn't use his legs.
Yeah, my God.
Because they were basically dragging him across that sidewalk into the van.
Right.
And it was like, oh, man, these guys are just blowing smoke up people's asses. They're trying to cover each other up,
Right. Well,
and that's the problem. I think one of the things that needs to happen is these police departments need to get reformed. I think they need to become, yes, I think that they need to become genuinely involved with transparency.
Right.
Okay. I think that they have a lot of problems right now, and cops all over this country need to really look at the problems that they have in their own respective communities as far as crooked cops are concerned.
Right.
And I really think that they need to build their trust up with the public again.
Oh, I'm sure, unless they want what's going to happen in Baltimore happen in all our major cities with looting and vandalism. Okay, well, let me ask. How about this? Just the final thing I'll say about this. How about on the federal level, a task force that will go ahead and interdict in whatever municipality where these egregious acts happen? Because it seems to me like it's completely out of the hands of the municipality, right? Seems to me like the feds need to go in and enforce some sort of order.
And I happen to agree with
accountability.
Yeah, I happen to agree with that. I think that someone higher up the food chain needs to come down and make their presence known.
DOJ has to make a team to shoot in there, because we can't have Baltimore happen in every town in America.
Yeah.
Because of what they're going to let law enforcement get away with. Well, let me go ahead and leave that there. Okay, John, this is a great interview, and I'd like to thank you for it. Could you hang around, and I'll open up the room to participants?
Sure, not a problem.
Great. Okay, well, let's go ahead and take a few minutes break. Thanks, John. Great interview.
Okay.
Oh,
Hello.
hello.
Hello, how you doing? Jackie, do you know the Quiet Atheist, John?
Kind of, yeah. Hi.
John,
Hello.
this is my friend Jackie.
I think that I've talked to Jackie before in a hangout.
Yeah.
Yes. We had a very pleasant conversation indeed. It was something, that I really enjoyed, so I thank you for that.
No problem. I'm so bad at keeping track of, conversations I've had with people, so I don't. I feel bad. I don't know what we were talking about. I just know that I've talked to you before.
She talks to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So how have you been, Jackie?
I've been alright. I've been working on schoolwork, just taking a small break here.
Oh yeah, how's school
Been
doing?
listening. Oh, it's going alright. I've been listening to the interview, so yeah.
Have there been any murmurs
Mm.
on campus about what's going on with Baltimore and police, law enforcement?
Yeah, most of the student body here is in agreement that the police need to be retrained.
Retraining.
And yeah,
What do you think?
um, I think the police, they're like the Quiet Atheist has said, there are racists wearing badges. It's not appropriate to say the police are racist because that's painting with a
Too wide of a
broad
brush.
brush. Yeah, and I know cops who are cool. They're the kind of cops who take people home when they're too drunk, late at night, or they help the old lady cross the street. Like
Right.
most cops are like that. It's just like these big city cops have this culture where they have to, be a brother and back each other up. And if someone screws up, then, they gotta cover each other and and then there's those few who are racist and it's toxic environment and get other police involved in their problems and stuff. I don't know. It's just I feel like it's a lot of like the big city police departments because I feel uncomfortable around the LAPD.
Oh, I
I
would.
don't. Yeah, I don't feel uncomfortable around the suburban city police departments out in
Okay,
Orange County.
if
I
like you had an encounter with a
They're
cop,
very respectful.
Jackie, you want there to be a camera running so you can, record everything that's going on?
Hell yeah, yeah. Although the thing is that I am a middle class white girl.
Sure.
I who is I mean yeah I'm socially awkward but I'm not mentally unstable so I don't feel like I would have any problem with cops. I think a lot of this is a minority issue and a mental illness issue. Which, by the way, I don't think is covered by the media often. I feel like, um, you know, all the cases we see of police brutality, I hate to bring this up, but it's mostly African Americans. Where are the cases with Hispanics, and where are the cases with the
Well,
mentally ill? We had a big case happening in Fullerton at the Fullerton train station in Orange County where a mentally ill man was beaten to death by cops.
right.
And that was not covered in national media. It was only covered locally.
Right. Well,
It
there's
was
so
a
many.
huge deal.
Oh,
And
okay. Well, let
I'm
me.
just wondering why there isn't enough attention paid to the cases where the victim is mentally ill.
Well, I also, I have to admit, I think it's photogenic. I was, in the Fullerton case, if there was any cameras running. You see, while with
Um,
Freddie Gray, there was
I
cameras
don't know.
running.
I think I'd imagine there's security cameras at the train station.
See what I mean? It's like, the reason in
I mean,
Baltimore
I've
allows.
seen them.
Well, then I wouldn't, maybe the media does press these cases that seem, to be photogenic. That's what I'm trying to get at. Well, hi, lady. Welcome to the show. What do you think? Or anyone? I'll open it up to anybody.
Tinfoil
Hi,
hat.
Trollin.
I've never met a tinfoil hat. Hello.
It's a new name. Well, what do you think, John? I mean, is it because these things play out well on TV that they become popular?
I think that with what the media is doing now, with all of these cases, is a little dishonest. And the reason why I say that is they want to paint this beautiful picture of all of these people starting fires. They want to do all of these things because
Well, sensationalize it.
Yeah, they're only concerned with money and ratings. They really don't care about the truth. They don't want to really get to the heart of the matter, because I think that's something that they would probably have a great difficulty doing. I think, again, that they are built on all of this propaganda that they're sharing with everybody, and they expect everybody to believe what they say at the drop of a hat, you know. The media, like I said,
they know these are guaranteed ratings, John. So
yeah.
Aren't they doing what the media is supposed to be doing?
Well, yeah, but I think that if you're going to cover something, you know, like this horrific story, I think that you should be covering... Huh?
Journalism? Is that what you want? You want entertainment, or you want journalism?
I want actual journalism, man. I want actual information that is valid and right up to the point, not, you know, this...
Yeah, whatever.
I don't want treachery in the news, you know what I mean?
Intrigue.
I don't want this plethora of misinformation shared with the public, because it serves no benefit to them at all in any way, shape, or form, you know. And it's something that, you know, that needs to happen with the media. I don't see it anytime soon happening, you know, because, you know, you got a bunch of rich corporatist individuals out there who want to line their pockets with cash, so they really don't care what kind of procedure they implement in their everyday lives. You know, they just want that money. They don't care about honesty. They don't care about anything like that.
Okay, well, let me ask all our participants, what do you think is the message about Baltimore? What are we hearing and understanding? Anyone?
I had a friend talk about, you know, how the Baltimore riot, you know, like the people who are protesting in Baltimore are protesting for a criminal. Like, even though they've made it clear that they don't deserve, that Freddie Gray didn't deserve to die. And the thing is that even if this guy who had spinal injury and died and whatnot, even if he was the worst scumbag of scumbags, and you know, like, the protests weren't just about Freddie Gray.
Okay, what were they about?
The protests was about police brutality in general against, in particular in this case, the African American community, which is just horrific. I mean, we have way too many young African American men who don't feel comfortable walking around in their own neighborhoods, you know, because some police is gonna rile them up, you know, and it's ridiculous. It's like, you know, the police have to fill a quota, and they pick on the smallest people.
How about this? Like, you know, I'm looking at the side chat here. Okay, is this particularly an American phenomenon? I like to ask our Americans that they say, oh, this just happened specifically to Americans. I say it's just cameras. Cameras are the key in this type of technology.
The thing is like, wait, are you saying this is just an American issue?
That's what they're saying. Can't you know?
Yeah, you know what? I think in the Western world, it's an American issue. I think there is, you know, brutality from authorities in other parts of the world, but America is in a unique position where we have a diverse population, right? So,
So that is
and
that accountable for the violence, the level of violence, Jackie?
well, okay, I'm trying to narrow down my thoughts. I have a lot of things to say, and ideas are getting blended together. Um, for example, I talked to someone who was from Britain on a hangout a month or two back, and they just couldn't believe that uh, police brutality was happening in America. They wanted statistics, and they didn't understand that we get those statistics thrown at us every day in the media.
I offer
Um,
that this sort of police
they
brutality has always
they
been
don't
here,
know.
but it's the
Oh,
camera.
yeah. Okay. Are we talking about a time frame or are we talking about geography? Because if we're talking about time, I think police brutality has always been here. We just have cameras now to
Now we have cameras.
know that it's happening. Yeah, but I don't think that I don't know. I don't live in another country, obviously, but like from talking to people from Europe, especially, it doesn't seem to be a Western world problem. It seems to be an American problem.
Well, are you going to stand up for the USA, John? I hope you will. Or just say that we are all, violent sickos here.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm going to be honest when I say this. I think,
Please.
as far as the U.S. is concerned, I think that we could learn a few things from Europe. As far as law enforcement is concerned. I mean, I admire Europe for a lot of things. I think, in a lot of different situations, not only the police, but in a lot of different situations, I think that Europe in so many ways is so much more disciplined than we are.
Disciplined or less violent?
Less violent. I would say both.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I've never
Oh,
been to those countries, but you know, I
oh,
think I definitely would think that they are less violent. Yes.
I remember what I was trying to get at just a second ago. We have a history of segregation, our country. We have
Sure.
a really strong history of racism and slavery and all that in recent time, unlike Europe. I mean, I'm sure slavery happened and stuff, but not within the last
Yeah,
few centuries,
sketch to put
like we
reason on
have.
that. Anyway, so please get the point.
And huh?
Go ahead, please get the point. What are you saying? That are you making some sort of
Yeah.
equivocations for the violence here?
Well, I'm
I,
saying
I'll
that
disagree. The only reason that America is the showcase right now is because
you
of
didn't
camera.
let me actually finish my point,
Go
Bunto.
ahead. Please.
Okay. Um, Basically, what I'm trying to say is that um, the American culture, there's certain people in America who think it's okay to still be racist. And I think that mentality has infiltrated some police departments here.
Okay. Pyong, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Big Daddy, how you been?
Pyong, this is my friend, the Quiet Atheist. He was in law enforcement for many years, and we're trying to get a handle on what's going on with our law enforcement crisis here in America.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hey,
John,
nice
my
to meet
friend Pyong. Okay, Pyong, would you say this is an American crisis, or is this just a crisis that technology has bestowed upon us via body cams? That's what I say.
Oh, you mean the Baltimore riots, that kind of thing? Is that what
Well,
you're
how
talking
about in the general, just the general law enforcement abuses in this country?
Well, I don't know. Okay. I got a couple of things that I think about it. If I had to pare it down to one, I'd say training. I'd say
Training.
yeah, there was a shift at some point where Leos we're taught and trained that your safety is paramount. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I think it's a different mindset. It's a more militaristic mindset, and I think it has to do with the advent of military contractors infiltrating domestic law enforcement agencies. That's a bad way of saying that. There's a, maybe I should say that there's a logistical highway now, that didn't necessarily exist before.
You need a machine gun, we got it for you, right?
Well, not a machine gun. I don't know. Quiet Atheist, can they get machine guns? What I'm talking about is military hardware, personnel carriers, vehicles, SWAT training. I mean, my little town has, I think, 40,000 people in it, and we have a SWAT team. That was unheard of.
Right.
20 years ago.
A tank.
Yeah, they've got an armored personnel carrier, and that was because there was, I can't remember when it occurred. At some point, there was an okay by our Congress that said that they could start selling military vehicles to law enforcement agencies. So I think it's a training issue myself. I don't know. See, the problem with saying that it's racist, I heard Jackie say something about racism.
Well, I think that...
The problem with it saying it's racist is, racism is, unless you're talking about institutionalized racism, which we're not, you're talking about an individual situation where someone is discriminated against based upon their race. It could have been, speaking specifically about this fella who died in the back of the paddy wagon.
Yeah, let's talk about Baltimore.
It could have been they just didn't like him because he was a criminal.
Well, okay, number one, I think it's pretty, in my opinion, I think it's pretty evident that there is a factor of race in it. If you see in our justice system, there's a lot more convicted criminals who are African American and in the minority than there are white men.
Jackie, that's a racist. The loquitur argument. You're saying the thing speaks for itself. You have to identify the mechanism by which the racism occurs. Are you saying the individuals are racist? The police officers are racist? The laws are racist? What are you talking about?
I think, well, I don't know. I'm not really a police officer, but there seems to be a pattern of who is the victim in these police brutality cases. And I'm not just saying it.
Yes.
It's not just a race issue, though. It's also I didn't make myself clear earlier, but it's not just a race issue. It's also, there's also brutality against people who are mentally ill. It's like kicking people who are already on the ground, making yourself feel good. And another thing is the training aspect. Yeah, I also think that I think there's a number of factors in this. I think that another big factor is this is post 9/11, and I think a lot of
9/11.
I know.
Yeah,
okay.
I think there's still fear, and I think there's still the police system still what's with all the SWAT teams, What's with NSA, spying on all of our phone calls and stuff? What's with the unnecessary security at airports,
Right.
there's
I believe Trump went ahead and touched upon that, saying that we are going a little bit militarized with our police force. But I want to offer, this is just indicative of our new surveillance society, Pyong, that we have more cameras. We're actually seeing what's going on. Don't you agree?
Well, what did you see going on with the fellow that died? He died from an injury that was apparently they charged the driver with second-degree murder today.
Right.
apparently he had a spinal injury that he received while he was in the back of a paddy wagon.
We saw enough, right?
What'd you see?
Well, like John was telling us beforehand, we saw that he couldn't use his legs while he was being, lifted into the paddy wagon, right, John? So that goes to follow that, the guy was, under some duress and disabled. Hard to follow, how did he squish his own larynx? You see what I mean? What I'm trying to say is that was a benefit of the surveillance society, John, that we can start seeing, how these egregious police law enforcement abuses go down. I'm still trying to stick up for, like, this isn't only an American phenomenon. This is going to come across all of the West, cameras, the surveillance society.
Yeah, fantastic aspect of new technology. I agree. I totally agree. If something, if there's an egregious violation that leads to a death, then it should be addressed, and I have no problem with the guy being charged with second-degree murder.
Okay, you say training, right? The cop says, yes, we train the cops to turn off the camera. Isn't that...
Train the cops to turn off the camera?
I mean, isn't that essentially what they're going to have to do? I mean, because once we can actually see what's going on, we see the abuses. See what I mean?
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, I think it's the implementation of military-style tactics. I was actually talking to a police officer from my town, because I'm a law and order guy. I am on the side of the police.
Sure. We all are, I hope.
Yeah. And I was talking with one, and he was telling me I was going to buy his flashlight, actually, and he was telling me how he didn't use it, and I was like, well, what do you mean he didn't use it? He said, I got one on my gun, and I said, okay. I said, so if you go into a dark house, you're waving your gun around, pointing it at people. He's like, yeah. You know what I mean? And
my God.
Now it's just a different kind of mentality. You know what I mean? I am not a police officer, but I would never point a gun at somebody unless I intended to shoot them. So,
okay,
but, it's a different. Like I say, it's training. Go ahead. Yeah.
I can teach a cop to be less violent, a la Euro standards, or just is that out of hand? Dismissed, out of hand. Hey guys, let's be less violent, right?
Well, I don't even think it really goes to going to less violence, but also you'd have to, I think. And maybe your friend might not like this, but it would also have to go to the liability issue. What are policemen liable for? What organizationally? For example, in Illinois, where I'm licensed, a policeman is not liable for any misconduct unless the level of that misconduct rises to criminal activity. So unless something is actually a crime, they're not held liable.
There's
for
a
anything
lot of
they do.
Room there to.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Claim negligence, right? To claim negligence. I didn't know this wasn't my taser. It was my .44 Magnum. Sorry. You've heard stories about people getting the wrong house and shooting the person's dog and that sort of thing. There was a case recently where the mayor of a town in Ohio had drugs delivered to his house. He didn't, but drugs were delivered to his house, and they kicked his door and shot his dogs. and then he's like, I'm the mayor of this town over here. So, I mean, that sort of stuff actually does happen, but... Okay, they're just constantly saying training. I'll open up to floor to all participants. What do you think? Is that the solution? Training? Better training?
I think a lot of, psychological evaluations need to be more thorough, as far as, a police officer is concerned. Because me personally, I don't think they're really that thorough. They ask you a lot of tricky questions. They give you a lot of scenarios, but I think that it needs to go a lot deeper than that, I think, one of the things that is a big problem here in the States is education, okay? For one thing, we don't lead in anything in this country regarding education. I think that last time I checked, we were 27th, in education. And there's a few things that we lead in, and one of the things that we lead in is the number of people that believe angels are real, And to me, that is extremely inappropriate, especially when it comes to social issues. I think that a lot of these individuals that become police officers don't know what they're doing, basically. You know, I'm not saying everybody doesn't know what they're doing, you know, but there's a handful, you know, that really shouldn't be where they're at. And it's something that is a big problem. For instance, I remember when I was younger, you know, I've never heard of police brutality. I would be in class.
Hold on, were you younger near 1991?
Huh?
Were you younger in anywhere between the early 90s? Police brutality was a big problem then. It was one of the biggest stories around the country in 1991 was the beating of well, I can't think of his name.
Rodney King.
Rodney King. Yes, I wasn't aware of when that actually happened at that particular point in time, but eventually I did become aware of that. Back then, in '91, I was really young. I was completely ignorant about any of these issues, you know. My idea of an education was to just sit down and watch funny movies, to be honest with you, you know. I wasn't really aware of what was going on around me, per se, but now that I've become more familiar with these types of things, and now that I've experienced this type of business on a personal level, you know, I definitely see cracks in the foundations of a lot of these organizations, you know, and I think a lot of these things can be drastically improved, and it's something that I've been, you know, a champion for as far as education is concerned. You know, I think that training needs to be involved, retraining. The police departments need to be reformed in certain areas. You know, for instance, I read this article, I think it was last week, that a couple, I think there was like 3 officers, I can't remember the precise details about it, but there was these 3 officers that were exchanging text messages, and they were working in this neighborhood that was mainly black people, and they would exchange these racist text messages. Well, it just so happens that some people got wind of this, the brass, if you will, and all of them lost their job instantly, all 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about how they wanted, in these text messages, they were talking about how they wanted to go and hurt a lot of these black individuals, you know, and I won't say the words that they used, you know, out of respect for people, but it was pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you have that type of particular mindset when you're dealing with the public, I think it's going to cause more problems than what it's actually worth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this perception that a lot of these officers have is very poor as far as social issues are concerned, you know, because like I said, when I was younger, I'd have police officers go into the classroom and they would talk with us kids about being a police officer, and they would go out of their way to sit there and let us know that they are there for us, they are there to protect us, and we should feel safe around them. But what city in this country still does that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of this stuff has disappeared over the years, you know, and it's a big problem to me. Because I remember I'd go into classrooms and I'd talk with kids about things, you know, I try to explain to them, this is what you shouldn't do, this is what you should do. Go to a police officer if you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Go to any type of person of authority if you have a problem. Versus, you know, instead of going and handling the business yourself and getting yourself into a lot of trouble, which is completely unnecessary to me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it serves as a terrible example. So when it comes to training, yes, they do need to be trained. I think that the psychological aspect of it needs to be more thorough, because let's face it, these police officers carry a very deadly weapon, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and the responsibility for some of these individuals is lacking, you know, and that's what I have to say about that. So what do you guys think?
I actually grew up in a city that did that. With the police came to our classroom and they were like, hey, we're here if you need anything. This is how you get a hold of us. And they even like let us look around in their police cars and stuff. This was in elementary school, like 6th grade. And they were like, this is how the police car works, this is how the sirens work, this is what's on our belts. You know, like, don't do this, do that, don't do this when, you know, when we approach you, do this and this and this. And, you know, and if you are ever in trouble, do this, you know, like.
You never want to sneak up on a cop, right?
I'd imagine not, no.
Learn to clap if you're walking up behind a cop.
or approach them from a different angle, you know.
I think, okay.
I don't know.
I think that there's a few things that need to that are the problem. Number one, there needs to be a culture change, and I think the things that need to be changed obviously need to reflect and be geared towards a goal oriented towards changing the culture of the police system in the United States. Right now, the system seems to be let's get all the weapons we can and kill some bad guys. I mean, really, that's the majority. It's really militaristic. It's not protect and serve your community anymore. It's let's do a sting and take out, you know, some large.
Well, let me bring up the other end of the argument, Seth. Aren't criminals more violent now than ever?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think we just hear more about it.
Especially when they're running from you.
I would definitely say no, especially where I live in Los Angeles. I was just talking about, you know, 1992, Rodney King. There was a major gang problem in L.A. in the mid-'90s.
Right.
It's all but disappeared now.
Exactly. I mean, I can walk through LA with my friends most parts of the day and feel safe.
Okay, so what is the justification for the militarization of the police force? Anyone?
Like I said, I think it's a mentality that I don't think that the event itself of 9/11 is like, oh, we're worried about another 9/11. Like, I don't think it's that. I just think, yeah, I think there's just a mentality that's grown out of it. Now we need like more protection, more militarization, and all of that. I really think that, like I said, it's not like, oh, I'm afraid another 9/11 is gonna happen. It's more like there's a mentality. You know what I mean? I also think we're only seeing all of this now because of the camera things.
Well, okay, let me ask Pyong a question. Pyong, does that follow that we're fighting terrorism when we're, you know, taking down Freddie Gray and Trayvon Martin?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, could have something to do with that. I think probably it started. Remember when there was that big bank robbery in L.A. and the guys were in the body armor and they had assault rifles?
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and the cops had 9mm parabellum weapons and, you know, handguns and shotguns, and they were unable to penetrate the armor on those guys. I think that's when there was a shift in the narrative about what is acceptable and that sort of thing, and then they started getting the 223 carbines, and then it just went from there. I think one of the reasons why the police have military training now in military hardware is because the people who make the military hardware have convinced the Congress that it's okay to sell it to these local law enforcement agencies.
There's an industry there.
Yeah, there's definitely an industry there. I mean, these armored personnel carriers that are available are big money. So, and they're being sold. They're not just, and they're all, well, see, I think what also they do, if I remember correctly, I don't remember where I heard this though, so it could be a lie that I'm telling you, but they retire old military vehicles sometimes, and they sell those to the law enforcement.
I've heard that too.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I think it has more to do with just the money.
That makes sense. I haven't really thought about that yet. That's a good point. I did want to clarify that I don't think that these criminals are terrorists. I don't think there's a fight to fight. I just think that people react irrationally to, the whole media sensationalizing the whole terrorist thing. But yeah, no, you bring up a really good point.
Okay.
I also wanted, hold on, I wanted to throw in one more big curveball in here and say,
Go ahead.
a lot of these convictions are seem to be drug related, seem to be like marijuana related, and I would think that one solution possibly could be the legalization of marijuana.
Oh yeah, free the weed, Jackie.
Because a lot,
Yeah.
a lot
It
of
helps when
these,
you're, being thrown in the paddy wagon at least.
yeah, I mean,
Now look,
free
why don't we
weed.
just call a spade and say this is the Israelification of America. We're having checkpoints. Everybody's walking around with a machine gun. We're starting to look like Israel, aren't we, Carlton?
Sorry, I was muted there. No.
We're not starting to look like... Okay, you haven't had to drive through a checkpoint yet, Carlton?
I'm afraid not, no.
I have.
I think there's a checkpoint between here and Alabama, but I believe it's self-imposed.
We have checkpoints because they want to catch drunk drivers. So they just go ahead and stop, people at an intersection to make sure they're not drunk nowadays.
I've never seen
Ostensibly. Oh, yeah.
one. Okay.
Oh, I've been through several of those, but I've been through like just a checkpoint, like a state border checkpoint, and they pull random people over and check for drugs.
I don't see why they don't station the cop at the liquor store or the bar.
So what Bunto's talking about DUI checkpoints, I've been through a few of those. Yeah, they suck.
Yeah, they do suck.
Okay, Seth, why are those legal?
I don't think they are. I mean, I think they probably could be challenged if somebody wanted to challenge them in the Supreme Court. But I'll tell you one instance on them. Some people just get waved through. They look at you, they see a flashlight, they don't think you're drunk, they want to get some cars through, they wave you through. And they did that to me, and as soon as I drove through, about a mile down the road, a cop pulls me over and says, "Why did you blow through the DUI checkpoint?" They waved me through. No, they didn't. They told you to pull over. Like, no, they clearly waved me through. They wanted
Did you get busted?
No, yeah, they wanted to check my car. They wanted to write me up for anything they could. Everything on my car was legal, so they didn't have anything. But they were pretty pissed off because there was some miscommunication between them, and they thought I blew the DUI checkpoint.
Okay, Pyong, that's legal?
What bit is legal?
Checkpoints where you have to, like, have your car checked.
Well, you're still going to have your constitutional protections and everything, but you have to be careful. Yeah, I'm sure they're legal. Yeah, but
They're legal.
See that? Yeah. Oh yeah, they're legal.
Why can a cop pull me over just on the suspicion that I'm drinking?
Well, here's right. The thing is, and even though I said I'm on the part of the on the team of the law enforcement agents every time, that's absolutely true. Even though I say that, I have been pulled over probably 7 or 8 times, something like that, and in 5 of those situations, believe it or not, the police have lied for administrative ease to make their job easier. One time, for example, I was driving with some friends of mine, and I had just moved to the town that I live in now, actually. And it was late at night. There were 4 guys in an SUV. It was probably 1:30 in the evening. They pulled us over to see if we were drinking. And the cop says to me, "Well," I said, "why did you pull me over?" And he said, "Well, you didn't have your seatbelt on." And I said, "Well, this vehicle has passive restraints, so I clearly had my seatbelt on." And he said, "Ah, it must have been the other guy." Again, he's just lying. Yeah, he just lied for administrative ease. That's the way the game is played. If you didn't do something wrong, they'll lie and say you did. I mean, that's just the reality. Everybody deals with that. Whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Latino, whatever, you're going to have to deal with that at some point. That's just the way the game is played.
Following that line of thought, Pyong, could we say that the cops are just trying, with Baltimore, they're just trying to see how far they can take it?
No, it's not. I don't think that's what happened there at all. I think they were, they probably willfully disregarded the safety of that young man, and they probably had an idea that he was their enemy, and maybe that was well-founded, maybe it wasn't. But I don't think they're just trying to see how far they can take it, like they're fucking Wall Street traders in the 80s or something.
Trying to look at it and trying to make sense of what's going on with our law enforcement abuses, you know, couldn't somebody fairly say, well, in America, they're just trying to see how far they can take it?
That's generalizing based off of, you know, finite instances.
Okay, it's just one example, but we're seeing these examples week after week after week, Pyong.
Yeah, well, you
well,
know,
I mean,
again,
when are you going to finally say that there are patterns of law enforcement abuses?
I already told you what I think should be done. Again, you know, you're making these generalizations based on these discrete instances or
well, what else do I have? I mean, you know.
Hold on.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is, I think the pattern is not racism. I don't think the pattern is cowboy cops. I think the pattern is you have, you know, is born from training, the direction of the training. You might say the overall theory of the training, but also liability. Like I said earlier, as an attorney, if I fuck up, I'm on the hook for a lot of money. I lose my professional license. Okay?
Right.
A cop, as a part of a union, they don't have those pressures.
Right.
In order to perform with excellence. Okay.
Right.
They have a union to protect them. They've got a brotherhood, the thin blue line, that is willing to lie, to cheat, to remain silent on issues where they know there's exculpatory evidence or whatever. That's the culture within which they live. And also, there was I think while you were away, the Quiet Atheist was, you know, made some excellent points on the quality of the individual that is being allowed to pursue a law enforcement career. If I'm characterizing what he said properly, I don't know. Yeah. So, you know, there are some issues, but I think fundamentally one thing that you could do, and it would change it overnight, more liability for the cops. You know,
liability.
If responsibility, if you've got the power, you should have the responsibility, and vice versa. My personal philosophy: if you've got the responsibility over something, you should have the power to alter it. But they've got the power to take people into custody. That's the only power that cops have, to arrest. Okay, they gather evidence, but that's their power to arrest. They should be liable for damages that occur during that. But it's that again. I say again because I mentioned this in previous conversations that we've had, Bunto, the one-way check valve, you know, where it's never politically expedient to say we should be less harsh on criminals. You see what I'm saying?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do you think that maybe, like, cops think that because they're law enforcement, they're above the law? Maybe there's a mentality that, like, hey, I have this power, this gun, this you know, I have certain abilities that citizens don't have, and I do what I want. Like, there's no consequences for me. I'm above the law. And it seems like there are a lot of, okay, not a lot, like some cops think that they can be the law enforcer and the judge, and be like, and decide that the criminal they're going after is guilty.
A rogue cop.
Like, yeah, like they decide that the criminal they're going after is guilty, like right then on the spot.
But Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
Anyone? I actually think it's just okay. We keep saying training, right, Pyong? Because you want robots, correct?
You want robots?
Well, isn't that what you're saying?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Okay.
No. Look, there's a more militaristic training as opposed to like a peace officer training. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the.
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead. I was going to
I'm
say
talking
robots get rid of Dirty Harry and the Rogue Cop. They do. If we
They're
have
always no. See, the rogue cop thing. I don't know. I guess there are rogue cops. I mean, certainly there are. You know, none of them spring to mind at the moment. But cops, you can't have like totally. I know this is terrible to say, but you can't have totally decent cops. And I'm not saying that they have to be corrupt, but one of the reasons why we have successful prosecutions of criminals, particularly in cases that are difficult to prove, like rape,
right,
is because the defendants incriminate themselves.
Right.
Okay. They incriminate themselves because the cops are able to lie to them. You see what I'm saying? They're able to lie. They have certain things that they can't lie about. They can't lie about the ultimate disposition of a case. They can't say that they have an effect on the ultimate disposition of the case. They can't promise an outcome, that sort of thing. But almost everything else, at least in Illinois, they can lie about. Okay? And that's a very important part of the actual process. You see what I'm saying? So,
I can see that. Lucia, welcome to the show. How have you been?
Hey. Actually, just give me 2 minutes because I jumped in really fast.
Go ahead.
I have to go to the bathroom, so. So.
Oh, that's hot.
Yeah. You know, I had some stuff to say because it's like it's driving me batshit. This whole like a lot of and about the violence in Baltimore and stuff and shit and stuff like that. See, there's my argument. Checkmate.
Gee, man. All right.
No, it's not anything in particular that you guys are saying. It's just, but I'll be back in 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, John, what do you think? We need better robots, you know, handling the gun in America?
Well, you know, I wouldn't say robots. I wouldn't say, you know, train these individuals to be a bunch of mindless automatons, you know, but, you know, it's just, you know, dealing with the public, I think, for me personally, is very serious, you know.
Yes.
It's all about this trust. It's all about this trust issue, you know. If you do not have the trust of the community that you're supposed to protect, you don't have no business in that position. You know, you don't deserve to have a position of authority when it comes to the respective communities that you're working in.
Very good point.
Because who in the community is going to trust you at this point when, you know, they have this incredible uncomfortable feeling, you know, around police officers, you know, judging by what has happened in the past, present, and, you know, what could possibly have the potential of happening in the future.
Right. We want the cameras running.
Yes. I think that every police force in America should be equipped with those cameras, you know, because I think, again, like I said earlier, it's all about that transparency. You know, the public has to know what is going on constantly because I'm not saying all police officers do it, but there's a lot of officers in this country who hide behind a lot of smoke and mirrors, you know. They really don't, you know. For instance, I read an article, I'd say a couple of days ago, because I love to read, you know. Good. And there was this particular article about this officer, I think he was working for the sheriff's department, where, you know, there's a lady who was filming this from across the street, but she was also filming another individual that was filming these group of officers, and here comes this big-time officer coming up towards this lady.
Yes, I've seen that one.
Physically grabs the phone from her hand and smashes it on the ground. You know?
Right.
That didn't need to happen, you know. It's perfectly legal here in the United States to film officers. And I think that is very important. I think, you know, it's all about that accountability. You know, they have to be held accountable for what they do in regards to their communities that they are involved with. And if that curtain is pulled in front of the public, I think that a lot of these officers that are involved with this kind of nonsense are going to continue to get away with a lot of things. For instance, I'm pretty sure that you all are aware of that one particular situation where that cop basically murdered that one guy by shooting him in the back 8 times.
Right.
If there was nobody filming that, I am willing to bet $1 million if I had it that cop would have gotten away with it.
I think you're right.
And that's what they hate. A lot of these officers that are involved with this type of behavior hate the transparency. They hate that people are out there watching them, because before it used to be just me versus a cop, and a lot of them had the attitude, well, who are they going to believe? An individual that is serving the community or a degenerate like yourself? Basically, that's the kind of attitude that they throw on the table every time they encounter people in the communities. They want
Okay, well, let me ask the panel a question. If we could somehow have android cops, wouldn't that be a better thing?
No.
Okay, why not?
Not only android. There should be a human element to judgment.
A cop has to be human. That's what we're trying to say?
They're saying there has to be a human element to policing, of course, yes. It can't be black and white like that. That's part of the problem right now in some ways. And androids would just, we can't program them to
Does our taxpayer money go to the police department?
Of course it does.
Okay, we are paying them to protect us, not to murder us. So
Well,
I think
that mattered already. I mean, you want to invoke your tax-paying status, but nobody cares. Like, they don't care.
they don't care.
That's what I want to say too. Can I just say, I'm really busting here.
Go ahead, Lucia.
The thing is, it is a problem. It is endemic, and it's almost pandemic. It is widespread, and I don't know that there's a pattern to that. The black people and poor people get it way more than they're not up in Beverly Hills shooting young men running away from them. They're not up in Beverly Hills shooting 8-year-old boys playing with toy guns.
Right.
That is, I think it's a big economic issue. And it's a trust issue, like you said. It's a training issue. It seems to me, and I don't want to invoke, because the cops were, I'm from LA, and the cops were under conservatorship from the federal government for 20 years because they were so bad and corrupt and violent. Okay. So it's not in my day. Cops used to be that. No, they were always. Somebody said it. You can't have really great human beings being cops. The people who want the do-gooders don't want to have violence. They don't want to deal with the bad side of life. So you do have a certain kind of person who becomes a cop, and that's always what it's been. But now, if you think about who chooses to be a cop these days, in the last 10 years, what have we seen over and over again? And the memory is so short that it is. I've heard some really smart people say, a pattern? Really, a pattern? Me and my daughter had to identify which shooting we were talking. We got mixed up because there were so many. There was a homeless guy in L.A. There was the guy who had just been shot in the back 8 times. There was a kid. There was one recently who had the cop was found not guilty of anything, right? Like the internal investigation. But then the footage came out later on. And that was a perfect example of what somebody just said. Without the footage, he'd been off. He'd been let off. Now he's charged, and I can't remember which case that is. But I think a really important thing is they don't care. Nobody cares that we care. Nobody is going to do anything about it. And nobody's going to listen to our peaceful marches and our signs and our freedom zones and going down the peaceful march route that the cops themselves map out for us. And I'm not, I don't advocate violence per se, but this whole thing, this Pavlovian attitude, oh, violence will, you'll lose your message. The media won't be on your side. It'll be just as bad as the cops. The cops will win if you use violence. The cops have already won. The media doesn't give a shit if you're not going to get violent. They lead. They don't cover non-violent ones. And you've already lost the media and the message a long time ago. They're never going to cover poor people and people of color the same way and fairly. I mean, it's just not going to happen right now. And for all the things about violence, and violence doesn't change. Violence changes a lot of things.
Yes.
And we wouldn't be talking about it right now if they had just, had a couple marches, a couple raw rallies, and then everybody went home.
A pep rally.
Exactly. I do want to point out that I didn't even know about the whole Freddie Gray thing or anything until the whole riots thing. Like, right. I had no idea that was going on. Just putting that out there.
It's not like they can continue rioting nonstop, right? It's like, when I told somebody, it's like, I don't mind violence. Like this thing, like Freddie wouldn't have wanted to riot like this. Who cares what Freddie would have wanted? Because he's dead, and it's our problem. It's what they are, and it's not just murder of these suspects. There's just case after case of the guy who got, I told you about this one who got he clenched his butt cheeks when the cop the cop thought he had drugs up there. They spent a whole next 12 hours sticking things up his ass trying to find drugs.
Was that in New Mexico? It sounds.
Yeah, it was in New Mexico, and that guy got $1 million because it was egregious. And I love the thing about Baltimore is that they've had to pay out something $5 million from 2011 to 2014 for 100 cases won by people who took it to court against these cops. That is, if you look at the rate of civilians winning these kinds of cases against cops, it's rare, and they've won a 100. And the only reason it's so low, $5 million, is because Baltimore has a cap on what citizens can
for liability,
what they can get from us taxpayers if the cops get it's not criminal, it's civil. The citizens took it to civil court. And those citizens had to sign a waiver saying if they took the settlement, they can't talk about it in public, right? But and this idea that it's just like some rogue cops, there's a systemic problem.
Well, I'm sorry, Jack.
It's all over the place. It's every city, and I guess I would hate. I say this, and I think it's probably true, that nobody will start to listen and start to think about what we can really do about it until the white kids in the suburbia start getting shot in the back because they were running they were off in a park.
Oh, there's the white outrage. That's what you posit. Okay, well, Rand, welcome to the show. I have a quick question, Rand.
Are you going to come at me like you know something, Brock? I got to deal with the quiet atheist, see if we can't get him to explain why he ain't so damn quiet. But go ahead, Matt.
Right, Rand. Okay, can't you see from the position of law enforcement that criminals are much more violent nowadays?
Look, man, you guys have no idea what's going on. These cops have been doing this for years and years and years and years and years. When I was 16 years old, I was beat up by the police and had drugs planted on me in the back alley, all because I called the cop a name. So you guys think these police are all these upright, wonderful, amazing citizens?
Like you didn't do anything about it.
I'm sorry. Did the beginning of my sentence interrupt the middle of yours?
Yeah. It's true. Yeah, I'm not sorry.
Well, get sorry. Get sorry.
No, sorry, never sorry.
You have no idea what's going on. You're so asleep. I don't know if I'm talking to a deadbeat or not. If you get smart with me, you're gonna wish you didn't.
Blah. Get to your point.
What the?
Now, my point is on the top of your head. Put a hat on it.
Okay, please, Rand, get the point.
What's the matter with this? What is the matter with
It
you?
makes no sense.
What's the matter? Let Rand finish his point, and then.
Maybe you'd like me to come through your screen and slap you.
Yeah, do that. Yeah, I would like that. I'd like to see that.
Let's bring it back. Okay, Rand, go ahead and finish your point, please.
Look, these cops have been nasty forever. The problem is that now there's more of them, and they go through what is called a dehumanizing process in their boot camp, no differently than the military. They get to a place where they start to look at civilians like they don't matter anymore. And when you get into... I'm sorry, dumb.
That's a good point.
Mute this bitch.
Fuck you. I said it was a good point, asshole.
Well, let me finish my point before you say it's a good point, dum-dum.
Dum-dum. You 5 years old.
But it was interesting. Okay, the dehumanization camp. Please continue.
I'm sorry.
Am I going to be able to get a sentence out without my ex-wife shooting her lips off, or what?
Well, she left, Brand, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right, so here's the problem. Well, she is my ex-wife. She left too. All right, so I can't keep a woman apparently.
Okay, okay. They keep saying training, and it just crossed my mind that we just want robots, right?
Yeah, bro, they are robots. I'm under the belief that most of them aren't even human anymore. I think some are clones. Here's the problem. Ask yourselves this question. Why is it that a law-abiding citizen, a good human being that pays his taxes, works hard, never does anything wrong, doesn't commit any crimes, but when a cop pulls up behind him on the highway, you get that nervous feeling?
Right.
Why is that? You need to ask yourself why that is. The reason why is because they have put this intimidation on humanity, bro. And when you're in the low-income housing communities like this, and you know it's low-income housing because the Quiet Atheist is here, so when you get into these low-income housing communities, you start to realize that pressure that they put on you, and they treat those people like real garbage, bro. If you've never been in a low-income housing community or some of these projects, when the police roll through those neighborhoods, bro, they really let those people know that they're scum and they're garbage and that they're beneath them. And you get to a point where you just stop caring, bro. And that's what's happened. They just stop caring. They're no longer human.
Dehumanization. Anyone?
It's dehumanization. I talked to the military friends of mine, and they all said the same thing. I'm sorry, yeah, you can go to use the bathroom there with your hand up. What I'm saying is that there is a lot of these. I'm sorry, is that your IQ? Your amount of friends of your age? Do it again, and I'll snap.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, what the fuck is your problem, you cocksucker?
Yeah. And you look like you're dressed in a condom. So don't even bother calling me names, stupid.
Okay, Red, go ahead and finish so we can see what Lindsay wants to say. Go ahead.
Okay, so here's the problem. You guys are just now getting the news. I've had this news my whole life about the police. And make no mistake about it, these guys are absolutely dehumanized.
Okay,
in Canada, everybody knows how violent they are.
Oh, shut up, dum-dum. When did you get that?
Dum-dum.
When did you go cash your welfare check?
All right, Lindsay. What did you have to say, honey, Lindsay?
I was just gonna say that not all cops are the same. Like, my brother.
Oh, shut
up! Please, Rand.
Pretty much are the same.
Brother-in-law's an RCMP.
Rand, calm down, buddy.
And I don't think that he is dehumanizing himself when he went through camp. If anything, he became more considerate of people around.
But
your condom's too tight. Your condom's too tight. Loosen your condom. Somebody with some common sense add to this.
You know what? If you're gonna let a douchebag like this domineer your room, Bunto, then I'm just gonna.
Okay, you have a point there, Lindsay.
No, but you understand? You understand that I run YouTube, Lindsay.
Imagine being a cop and having to deal with
I am probably going to Google.
Well,
what do you
don't know how much you're
Rand,
So
I
I'm
love
just-
you, but you're derailing the conversation.
So
Yes,
I
okay,
actually just put this in the. Do you mind, really quick? I just put this in the sidebar. Actually, this is old news. Back in 2000, courts okay barring high IQ cops. So
Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to say. Yes.
Yeah, I know this is anything new. So.
Well, could you imagine being a cop and then Rand Campbell just comes up and starts dum-dumming everything, you know what I mean?
Oh my god, give me the drugs. I'm planting them on this guy.
You know,
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
What he
Just
just said,
dumb-dumb.
though, is really important, too, because that is another easy, that is an easier solution than, well, there's the training, obviously, yeah, have them do a year of junior college, you know, of general education. Just know some stuff about math and science before you get your arrested a bunch of people, and also make the cop it seems to me too so there's training problems, right? Like it very definitely the whole in between, you know, the cops. One thing I'll say for the cops before, and is that they used to know how to de-escalate, and they used to know how to handcuff people without 6 other cops and guns. Like, they used to just handcuff people. That used to just happen, right? And but the other thing is to remember for everybody that non-compliance is not illegal. Now, they can ask you questions and you say, I do not want to answer your questions. That is your right. And then if they want you to answer questions, they have the right then to detain you. That's when they put the handcuffs on, they put you in the car, and they take you downtown. And then if you still, then you can get a lawyer or whatever. But you have the right to non-compliance. You don't. They can tell you to do all kinds of shit, and you do. And if you don't, it's called non-compliance. But now it seems that non-compliance or being a total douchebag towards the cops, which, by the way, is also legal. You are allowed to be a douchebag to cops. I'm not saying do it because it might get you killed right now. But this idea, it's ingrained in the sheeple mind that you have to do what the cops. I heard Captain Osimo saying it. Shouldn't you just do what the cops say and then you're just going to be fine? No, most of these times, these people are, you know, they're being smothered, they're being sat on by 6 cops, they can't breathe. They've already complied, they're already on the ground, and some of them already have handcuffs on. And that's when they, you know, say that, oh, he didn't comply. Well, non-compliance is not an executable crime. And it used to be the cops were main focus was de-escalation. Now it's you get there, he's got a screwdriver in his hand, I'm going to take out my gun, oh, you moved, okay, you're dead.
I do have to defend Captain Osmo here, because what he's talking about is, well, I don't know about every single case I've caught on camera, but what he's saying is like, sometimes these people don't comply at first, and we only see the part where the police are reacting to a non-compliance that happened before the cameras roll. We don't know.
I think the reaction to non-compliance is the problem.
Let me finish. He's also trying to make a point that we should minimize our risk of what happened to
So what are you saying? Are you saying that they're dangerous? That the police that are paid to protect us are now dangerous, that we need to walk on eggshells around them for our own safety? What does that say about our police?
Well, I think there are other ways. I think there are other ways to
No, Jack, there's other ways for them to police. There's other ways for them to arrest non-compliance.
I think we should all get up first thing tomorrow and go disarm them.
Okay, you first.
Let me clarify what I'm trying to say. Hold on, because I think people are misunderstanding me. I think what the police are doing is wrong. You know, how they're handling situations is absolutely wrong. But while you know these changes that we're trying to make don't happen overnight, and while we're trying to make these changes,
What changes are we trying to make exactly?
I don't think that I think this is all talk and no action.
It's all talk.
I'm waiting for people to actually take
it's
action.
coming. You go ahead and wait, because it's coming, Jackie. Don't worry, Jackie.
So I think we need to.
That's where non-compliance comes in.
Encourage people. I think we need to take part in the action and encourage people to take action. But I don't think I don't think the action that we take needs to be during a one-on-one confrontation with the police where our lives are on risk.
What kind of action do you think would do the trick? I agree with you. Change the system.
It's too far now. It's too far, Jackie. Jackie, it's gone too far. A time for that nonsense is over. You're about to. I'm telling you, you're going to see, and you make no mistake about this. You're going to see people starting to stand up, and you're going to see something happen that you didn't think you'd ever see in your lifetime. And you can go ahead and point your finger at them because they're the ones causing it.
And when people did what Osmo says, you just do what they say, and everything will be fine.
No trouble.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I
Right.
think
That's my point.
the problem is I think you guys are thinking that he's saying just like that the people who have been mistreated did something wrong.
Murder.
That's not what
Well,
he's saying. He's
Fox
saying
News
that
told us
if
He said
you're
that. No, you misunderstood me, Jack.
okay.
I said
I think there's a
Osmo
misunderstanding.
is saying is that if the cop tells you to turn around, if the cop tells you to get down on the ground, if the cop tells you to give your license over and so on, just do it. I'm not saying he said anything else besides that.
Even
and
if you've done nothing wrong.
I'm advocating that for a single citizen, right?
Even if you've done nothing wrong.
I would say if you're in that position, I say do it and then go through the justice system.
Yeah, well, that's all wonderful. Yeah, Jackie, yeah, go give a cop a hug. Go give a cop a hug. Look at, I'm starting a revolution. You're either with me or against me. Never mind this nonsense.
I'm not on necessarily on the law enforcement side.
Go give a cop a hug, Jackie. I'm going to be punching cops out soon, so you go give them a hug.
No, I think you guys are misunderstanding.
Well, how about this? Why don't I simplify the question?
With the ones in the red suits and the horses.
Why don't I simplify the question here?
Well, the Mounties are the worst.
Right. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and shoot in here and simplify the question. We should do what the cops want us to do.
No, we shouldn't.
Right?
No.
Pull them out of their cars. Pull them out of their cars.
A system in which there is there's a whole YouTube station on it too. It's really interesting. Actually,
You need to randomly pull them out of their cars and start thumping them right in the spot.
Because
and I'm going to tell you something. After about 6 months of it, they'll straighten out.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Is that true?
Yeah, good advice.
My point is.
Quiet Atheist, do it tomorrow, and I want video proof.
Hold on, guys. My point is.
Abuses happen during protests, right? So they'll take somebody aside and they'll say, "Sit down on the ground," and you know you haven't done anything. Or it happens when you're pulled over for a ticket. Now, in almost every state, that is all they're supposed to do. Right, and there are the laws differ a little about what is considered suspect. Right, like I suspect that you were smoking pot in there, but they have to prove that. But okay, but most cops now tell you to get out of the car and put your hands behind your back, and that is so you do that, right? But then they tell you like, hey, they start asking you questions or something. Or they grab your arm and you start to panic, and so they say get down on the ground and you're like, oh, I don't. You panic. These people are in a panic and you don't think straight, and it's at that point in which the cop's training has never kicked in or never taught what to do at that point. You're not supposed to get your ticket victim or your ticket all worked up and panicky. Because it used to be that cops would say, if you get them panicky, they might then lash out at you. But now it seems that is the procedure. If you're in panic and not comply, and Jackie, what I'm saying is, at that point, there are things you can do and say to the cops in which you can be calm, and you can say it, and you may get arrested, but you will not. You will not be a sheeple. You will not be saying.
Okay, let me go ahead and shoot in here, Lucia. Pyong, those things are what?
Well, I definitely have the knowledge of things that can be said to cops that will engage certain requirements. Okay. I never say them. I think I've even told maybe you and Lyrics some of them, but
so you're a pansy.
That's a pansy. You have to follow the law.
I'm a pansy. I'm a pansy who's never done a stretch.
Have you ever hooked a cop? Have you ever hooked a cop? Have you ever hooked one?
Have I ever hooked one? No.
Brand Campbell has bring out the pansy card.
That's right. That's right.
The reason I don't say what to say to policemen is because of people like Rand Campbell, who probably will be arrested for some kind of felony righteously in the near future.
I've done more time in the back of a paddy wagon than you've done in population.
That's probably true, Rand.
That's going to be proud about it, dude.
Why not?
So,
Why not? Are you proud that you're a slave?
He's not a slave. He's trying to talk.
And I've been the one driving that paddy wagon.
Oh, so I've slapped you out a few times. So you're a court copper. So you're one of the guys that would transport inmates from the joint to the court.
Maybe Canadian. I don't
Called
know.
correctional officers.
Are you a correction officer?
I was both in law enforcement and corrections.
No wonder I want to slap you every time I see one of your videos.
Hey, Rand, since we're on this discussion of yours, and since it bears on this discussion, I think it would take a lot more than you to slap me around.
Are you kidding me? You guys used to call 15 cruises to come pick me up, bro. The police used to page me in the 1980s and ask me to turn myself in. I'd rather be wanted than had. I'd pick you up and throw you across the street, bro. It took 15 cops to arrest me, bro.
Hey, Rand, I definitely do not need 15 cops.
I would kick you in the chest and your nipples would touch. If I ever kicked you in the chest and your
You know how long?
Come on, Jackie. Me and you will take a music contest too. We'll just swap.
Yeah.
Do you know how long? Do you know how long it would take for your foot to get up to my face?
About 3 seconds after I grab you by your ears and swing you into the fetal position. There's nothing you can do to me.
You get swing. You can't swing somebody into a fetal position.
By the time you were to have raised your foot a quarter of the way
Bro,
up,
I'd have you crying.
You would already have been on your ass.
Yeah, I'd have you crying into your holster. I'd have you crying into your holster, son. If you ever came to arrest me, you'd be crying in your holster. Cops used to stand at the door shaking, telling each other, you go first. No, you go first. Are you kidding me? I would put shots on you so fast, son, I would turn your jaw into a jigsaw puzzle. You'd have to talk about.
Okay, look.
So Karen, you tell what you were saying.
Ren, you characterize people that follow the law as pansies. Why?
Pansies.
Why, Rand? They're following the law.
You're slaves, bro. You don't even know what you're following. You don't even know that you don't even realize that the laws that are being placed upon this world are fake laws, and they're done by people that have you.
Fake laws.
I'm sorry.
I understand you. Let me get my tinfoil hat.
Tinfoil hat. Why, are you gonna bake that little brain you?
The laws that have been placed upon this world.
You think these laws aren't man-made?
No, I don't think they're made by a
Well, I'll tell you what, you're about to find out that these laws are going to go out the window. And when there's anarchy on the streets, and when it gets back to the strongest survive, I'm coming to your neighborhood, and I'll be grabbing you by your face and firing you across the street. I can't wait. I can't wait for us to get to that point, brother.
Well, so I have a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sure you do, stupid. Did you write it down?
Go ahead.
Rand called us slaves, and I actually have a question for you. So if the state takes away 50% of your money, are you a 50% slave?
No. You don't understand slavery, dum-dum. That's why you're a slave. You see, you got SLD.
These are candy from the 1950s.
Sit down, bitch. What are you talking about?
So if the IRS comes to your house and takes away 50% of your money, I mean, you worked 50% of your time.
What are you, an idiot? You're an absolute idiot. Don't even talk to me, bro. I'll punch you in your face.
Well, it's kind of funny to think because
you know what a slave is. The money isn't the slave, bro. It's the things that you need to buy with the money that make you a slave. It's your personal desires. You don't work for money. You think you work for money, idiot? Nobody works for money. You work for the things money gets you.
No, but I'm saying if someone takes away 50% of your money, haven't you worked 50% of your time?
Let me ask you a question. This is how stupid you are. Do you pay taxes? Because if you do, you're already having half your money taken from you, idiot.
Yes,
they already take half your money, stupid.
Exactly. No, that's what I'm.
Now you are some stupid, bro. You are some
Rand,
You are about the stupidest person I've ever met.
Well, Rand, that's what I'm saying.
I hate cops.
Well, okay, Rand,
Holy
that's what
mackerel. I can't believe I'm in
that's
this.
what I'm saying.
What is this, Sesame Street?
I told you, you know, the fact that
You didn't tell me anything, stupid. I tell you.
The fact that 50% of if you know if someone takes away 50% of your money, you are essentially a slave to them, right?
You're a slave to them. You're a slave. You're a slave to the things you purchase, bro.
Hey, I will say this though. I think Rand does know a lot about slavery because, after all, it is taught to him from his book. You know.
That's right. That's right. And I love slavery. I think slavery is.
I'm hoping that God drops.
Can we give him a lollipop, dude?
I would love to have the whole group of you pick a card in the field for me.
For me, please.
I would love to own each and every one of you. I'd love to own each and every one of you.
Bro. On the road because Rand is
Give him his bottle, dude.
Okay, listen. Let me get a little bit more under control here. Listen, there must be a good slavery, Rand, to follow laws. I mean, the reason we have laws
you guys
is
are
we can have
following
order
them.
in our society.
No, you're blindly following them. You're not following them because you gave them any thought. You're following them because your parents follow them, their parents follow them, and you go all the way back to the dumbest member of your family. You're not following them. You're not following them. You're not following them.
Okay,
what if
listen.
I just have no reason to tranquilize?
Oh, Jack, you don't make me slap you. I like you. You're the last person I want to slap. I will have you barred from all Triple R hangouts. You will not be allowed to Triple R gang again.
Rand, let me go ahead and
The adults are trying to talk. Jack, sit down and be quiet.
Let me go ahead and ask the lawyer among us, why shouldn't we follow the law?
Who's a lawyer here now? The drunk broad?
Yes!
Fionn, why shouldn't we follow the law?
The Jesus mouth gag.
Reach through and slap me or whatever.
Oh, I would love to, bro. I'd pick you right up by your face and fire you over to the quiet atheist.
I'll twist you into a fuck pretzel or something.
That's right.
I know, right?
Oh, Fionn, why is it essential? Isn't it essential that we follow the laws?
Yeah, I mean the rule of law. It's what separates us from the savages.
No, I feel it's not important to follow the law. That morality is much more important because there are many laws that are immoral. So morality is superior to law.
My God, morality over
and
law.
And civil rights trump. And we're not talking about like breaking the criminal, like you know, raping and things. It's at that point of arrest or at that point of confrontation where these things are happening, and it's that point where our civil rights get crushed by compliance to things that are not law.
Yeah, but Lucia, I don't mean to interrupt you here. Okay, I really like you. I've listened to what you've said, and I have to say that the emotion in me kind of agrees with what you're saying. In reality, people who would do that sort of thing would be crushed by the system.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it will crush you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They'll crush you. Yeah. But when
I'm just trying to point out where it's gone wrong.
Right.
Oh, Rand left.
Oh, it's a poor baby. Oh, it's a poor baby.
Well, he didn't know who to attack because many of us had different opinions.
And your nipples will connect. What did he say?
Yeah, exactly. His nipples will
He
touch.
said he was going to swing you into a fetal position, which I just.
Great. That is so funny.
Yeah. Okay, you had to deal with lots of Rand cams, right, John?
Well, I was looking forward to having a conversation with him, but apparently he couldn't take the heat. Apparently his mighty Rand slap wasn't all that powerful today.
Yeah,
he couldn't have a connection problem.
Someone like that, it's impossible. He'll just interrupt you and insult you, and
his insults too are so
corny.
Great, the playground.
Hold on. Rand is a known troll. We all know he's trolling.
Yeah, so we can talk about it. So we know he's
I think
crazy.
I think he might have had connection issues, maybe.
I don't care. Like, it's he's an adult.
Well, he can't get back in because I have a law.
He wanted to slap me. He called me a bitch a few times, so I'm not gonna oh baby, he had too much to drink, so I won't talk that about him. No, fuck him.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay, but listen, just to dovetail it back, we need to follow the laws of our society, right?
Well, I think that the problem is the increase the monopoly of the courts and the police that the government has, and the increasing federalization. And the increasing federalization of the police. I think that these are the two biggest problems that we have currently.
Where is this federalization of the police?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the DHS has been giving the police massive donations for weapons, gear, things like that.
Yeah,
so
militarization.
Okay, well, federalization means that they come under like the auspices of the president. I don't see that. I just see weapons being handed to them.
Well, sure, absolutely. I mean, there's been
weapons without army training.
You know for a fact that the state and the federal government, the line between them has been fuzzy for forever, essentially, and so they've become much more federalized recently. And militarized is probably a more proper word, but I think that they've also been increasingly coming under the I guess you all call it the oversight or the of the DHS, and so.
That's also the sheeple part of it. The fact that I love it. Benjamin Franklin said it. He who gives up his freedom, his liberties for security, deserves neither. And the day after 9/11 is when people started going, "Oh, you gotta be policed, right? We need a strong police. We need strong." And they did seriously infringe the federal police. The federal law enforcement has really used the local police departments to do their thing, right? They're almost in bed with New York City cops are practically federal cops now. The way they
that's interesting. Okay, Pyong, is there any substance to that assertion that they're federalized?
I'd say they're federalized. I never said that. Federalizing.
Federalizing.
Okay. Hang on just a second. It is very similar to what I said earlier about the militarization of the police. So I guess I could agree with that. Let me say something to Lucia though.
Okay.
And when she asked Jackie, what prospectively do you think that we should do? And I think there's some place where Lucia and I can find some common ground here. I'm talking about more liability or less limited liability on the part of police. Very difficult to get there.
Yeah.
Rioting is not going to do it.
I don't advocate
is antithetical to it.
But
there was something, Lucia, specifically that you said, and you said it won't change until the white rich kids start getting shot in the back. Now, let's just assume for a second that what you said is true. If the cops aren't, hold on just a second. Let me make this point. If the cops aren't shooting white rich kids in the back, why? I mean, the implication there is that they fear that rich people can utilize the system so that there will be real retribution for misbehavior. Do you agree with that?
That's a great point, yeah.
So if we can get to a point where everybody has confidence in the rule of law such that it will work for them, and that if a cop does something wrong, I agree that there are evidentiary problems, like Bunto had talked about earlier with the recording the cops and that sort of thing. Those things need to be addressed, certainly, and they can be. But if people are confident that, the cops don't have limited liability when it comes to bad dealings with the public, I think that'll go a long way to help it.
I think it would go, I think it goes 60%, 70%, and the other 30% would be to formulate the training again. Like, I believe that the problem really does start in the training. They don't seem, and the attitude, it's a risky job. That's, it was a known risky job. When I see these things, it looks to me like the cops, and the Young Turks talk about this too, they don't take any risk anymore. That there's immediate escalation to, oh, my life was in danger. And whether they actually feel that way or it's something they come up with later, I think it's mixed. Like the guy who shot the guy in the back 4 times, he obviously didn't think his life was in danger, and he sauntered up and planted something. But there's other ones, like with the mentally ill guy with the screwdriver.
Let me just comment on that really quick. That is an example of the limited liability that cops enjoy.
Right. That's
Yeah.
why both ends, right?
Mhm.
Because you remember the one with the mentally ill guy with the screwdriver at the door? This was about a month or so ago. The cop arrives, told he's going there to help this mother get her schizophrenic son to the hospital. And she comes out of the door. The cop's on the front porch, and the guy is standing in the doorway with a screwdriver in his hand. And immediately the cop takes out his gun. He was like a couple feet away. He takes out his gun, drop the screwdriver, and the guy sort of moves a little bit, and he shoots him dead. And it's that cop, like, did he honestly feel that there was nothing in between shooting him dead and giving the order, and about 3 seconds later shooting him dead? There was no other way, and that's a problem. That's a training problem.
Well, okay.
Right, that's a military flavor.
Let's look at it reward punishment. Of course, the punishment aspect's always there to, a cop with liability. But what about
killed anybody this year?
Why don't we give them an incentive to not kill people? What do you think of that?
I think that can lead to corruption, but it's an interesting, a bonus if you haven't shot anybody.
Well, think about it. I mean, we're all there with punishment, but the incentive, if we could somehow incentivize cops to not do stupid things.
It's too bad, because the thing is, it's a person's life. To not take the life used to be incentive enough, and also to have the trust of the community, to not have a lot, to have less people in jail used to be an incentive. I'm not saying the cops, that was like, barring
That's it. We absolutely have flipped that on its ear. Now they want more people in jail.
Yeah, because privatizing prisons also a huge fucking problem for me. Prisons for profit is a sickness.
Okay, so
hang on, don't get into mission creep here. So, now, Bunto, I totally agree with incentivizing cops, but I think pay cops more, make it more valuable. I got no problem with paying cops more, but just like me, if I screw up, I'm liable. And then what happens?
You're right, absolutely liable.
What happens if I screw up? They take away my license. I can't work in that profession anymore. Make cops the same way.
It's funny. I don't know if it's still the deal, because when I was about 20 or something, it was that cops could retire very early. They would, I think in LAPD at one point it was 18 years, and then you could retire with a pension, and that was because of the stress and the danger, right? And the incentive was to get through to 18 years. But that was one way in which they could recruit people to become cops, because then you can retire when you're 40, right? And pensions now have come under fire because people
term limits for cops. Why not?
No, I don't think it's burnout. I really don't. I think it's not burnout. It's not complacency. I think that I think it's really.
It's a complex.
It's corruption.
Yeah, can be. The other about the liability. When I was talking about those cases in Baltimore in the last 3 years, they had to pay out to these people, right? 100 cases that were won in civil court. That money that they paid out is taxpayer money, and it was $5-something million that was the city's money that could have been spent on a lot of other things. And here's the thing: the cops union. Now I'm a union person, so I'm not saying, but the cops union they negotiated so that the cops would not be liable for anything, even if found criminally guilty on these things. So if these kinds of cases, these abuse cases, the Baltimore cops were not liable for not 1 cent, and all of them had been found having done nothing wrong in their internal investigations. That's why they were taken to civil court. And even after found guilty by the civil court, they were not fired or suspended, not even with pay.
They're getting promotions. Oh my God! First off, I'd just like to thank all our participants for this great hangout, and I'd like to thank our interviewee, the Quiet Atheist. Well done, John. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Y'all have Okay, y'all have a good weekend. See you later. Take care.
Yep.
You just stop.
Oh shit.
Only have a good weekend.
I love y'all.